My name's Kenton Ralph Toes. I've got a fund that invests in RUNE, runs nodes on THORChain. So I'm a node on THORChain. Pass it over to you, Patriot.
Hey guys, I am. Hang on, sorry. Gosh dang it. Okay, hey guys, I'm an educator for THORChain, and love THORChain. Sorry, my thing is all messed up, and what a terrible introduction. But you know what? Let's kick it to codehans because I'm struggling.
Hey guys, Hans, co-founder of Kujira back in 2021, and like I say, not got a huge amount of time, so I'll keep it brief. Kujira now merging into Rujira, becoming the app layer for THORChain, doing all the cool DeFi stuff that THORChain's native liquidity will let us do.
Awesome. So the other day, Kyle actually posted something about intents, had a bunch of questions about them, and suggested doing a space on them, and here we are. And Code Hands, you chimed in saying you've got all kinds of things to say and talk about intents. And just to give maybe people a bit more background, um, I think SwapKit has now integrated near intents, and that's being offered or provided as a swap route. And that's what kind of sparked this conversation. Like, what are intents? What are they doing? Is this competition for THORChain? Is this a new technology, something we have to worry about? Can we compete with it? Can THORChain do intents? Hopefully that helps set the stage for this conversation. And if you can take it from their hands, let you rant.
Yeah, sure. So I think kind of good context for this is so Kujira as a project launched back on Terra, and we launched our initial liquidity pool on TerraSwap. And as was the status quo back then, it was a standard XYK pool where you would just have all this passive liquidity sitting there, earning fees from swaps, just like you do on THORChain. Um, and you would, the kind of the status quo at the time was just to pay inflationary incentives to depositors that would LP their UST at the time and their Kuji. We had sort of 12 million liquidity or something. It was good, but we were paying through the nose for it. And it just kind of felt fairly insane that it was like all you were really doing is bridging the gap between somebody that wants to sell today and somebody who wants to buy tomorrow. And you're providing a pool to become that counterparty. And the kind of status quo in traditional finance and across any other kind of like trading platforms is an order book, right? Where really what you're doing is you're just stating an intent. It's like I think intent is just a funny way of packaging this up, but the point is that it became an increasingly frustrating pain point for us. It was like, why are we paying all this money to maintain such like a deep liquidity in this trading pair? Um, and sort of like I guess like necessity is the mother of invention, and the opportunity that we had, particularly actually interestingly with, and this is another conversation entirely, but this is it's quite relevant actually. That um, the the fact that Terra was a Cosmos chain and the fact that it was running Cosmos and the WASM VM allowed us to create an order book that you cannot do on an EVM chain. But the bottom line here was like what we're doing by creating an order book is we're creating a system where somebody can state their intent, right? That's all an order is, right? I wish to sell Bitcoin at $115,000, and you post your one Bitcoin and you sit there and you wait for somebody to come and take it. If you posted an intent and said I want to sell my Bitcoin at $95,000, you sit there and watch whoever gets there first, right? It's they're the same things, and so we built the first version of it was called Fin then. It's now called Ruji Trade, and it was a very simple intent solver. It was it was an order book. An order book, like in its purest form, an order book is a list of intents aggregated into price points, and then when somebody comes and wants to do a market trade across those intents, it solves them. It says, right, here you go. I got the best price here. Here's the second best price. Here's the third best price. And so the kind of the progression of this now, and what Rujira is with Ruji Trade is bringing to THORChain, and the quotes that THORChain will be able to offer when routed across base layer and app layer liquidity is the ability for people to make those intents with lots of different parameters, right? So, like, you've got a standard order book which has a fixed price. We have a different order type which is called an oracle order. So you can state your intent to say, I would like to sell my Bitcoin at 1% above whatever the aggregate price across every single exchange is. And so if somebody else comes in and says, right, I really want to buy right now, your intent is basically a floating price order that sits just above the current market price. And what Ruji Trade becomes now is it becomes the intent solver for all of these different lanes, for fixed price limit orders, for oracle orders, for an XYK market maker who is basically translating their liquidity into discrete intents, which are basically which present in the order book as orders to, base layer liquidity, virtualized liquidity, which represents in the order book as discrete orders. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling a bit now, so maybe we should stop and
yeah, that's great. Thank you, Hans. I want to just kind of ask something clarify. So intents are basically is an order book. Now,
intent is like it's not a physical thing, right? Like, so in programming you have when you talk about software design in this context, you have kind of the idea of imperative design and declarative design, right? And this is what we're talking about here. So imperative design is, I have state A and state B, and I am at state A and I want to reach state B. So therefore I've got to do this and do that and do this and do that. And if it's I have for example now, if I state A might be 0, and state B is I want to have state A is I have 1 Bitcoin, state B is I want 100,000 USDC. And the imperative version of that is I have to go to an order to a liquidity pool. I have to swap it. I have to execute this message, and then I get my token back. The declarative version of it is give me 100,000 USDC for my 1 BTC. And intents are just the translation of this kind of imperative model that we have with most of crypto at the moment into a declarative model where you just state your output and then you allow something else to solve that. And the status quo for current intents is that those solvers are generally off-chain, they're opinionated, they're allowed to order the solving. Whereas Ruji Trade is a completely 100% on-chain, fair intent solver.
So there could be MEV with regular intents, like people can jump in front of the trade.
Anytime you have I am yet to see, and this is, I know whatever, right? Like, okay, we built this, but I've yet to see a 100% on-chain, whether you call it an order book, whether you call it an intent solver, they're basically the same thing, right? Like, you've got a bunch of people that say, I want to sell or buy XYZ at XYZ price. And I'm yet to see one that claims to have completely fair distribution, atomic execution, and completely on-chain. And as soon as you relax any of those constraints, somebody else has to be an external observer. They can see, right, there's 5 people here that all want to sell at 110,000. Prices are at 110,000. Whose order do I fill first? And there is some level of opinionation there.
So they're not fully decentralized. Like there's something happening off chain there. Like there's some human intervention.
You can still call it decentralized. Yeah, you can still call it decentralized. But you cannot guarantee any properties of the execution. I mean, you can't even guarantee the execution happening at all. If the intent solvers are all asleep, obviously they're not asleep as bots. But my point being that if their bots fail or whatever, then actually there's no guarantee your order's ever going to fill. And actually, more likely is that these solvers will prioritize certain orders because of reasons, and you look at the chart in the morning and say, hey, look, I had a buy order for 100,000 and the price dipped to 99.9, but why wasn't mine filled? And it was because the 3 people that placed their orders after you got filled first, because for whatever reason, maybe they there's some kind of off-chain auction for intent solvers that allows them to prioritize certain intents or whatever, right? But it's not a very fair system.
Okay, so the order book on Rujira will be vastly superior, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So, and this is honest. It gets into the technical weeds a bit, but this is what having the WASM virtual machine as opposed to the Ethereum virtual machine allows us to do. It's right in the weeds. Like the Ethereum virtual machine doesn't have effective iterators, and you need iterators in order to be able to solve intents fairly and on chain. And so this is the only place we can do it.
Cool. Patriot, do you have anything to ask or add?
That was pretty comprehensive. I had a lot of questions. I didn't understand the difference, like between regular DEX aggregation and intents, and what is the significant advantage? But having a system that's immutable and fair, like codehan says, I think that's a huge 0 to 1. And I am ready to go, guys. Sorry for the introduction. You know how X spaces can be so glitchy and horrendous. But I'm just going to kick it back to Hans if he has anything else he wants to say, because he's limited on time, or if JP wants to say something.
Nothing particular from me. So yeah, fire questions or let's get stuck in.
Hey guys, I'm just quickly joining under invites. Super excited with what we're building. All last week, we've been hiring, building out our roadmaps, and just really formulating the next 6-month vision. And we have got something cooking that's going to be truly a sex-like experience, and more, and completely on chain with secured assets, plumbed into 15 plus chain soon. And the clues will come out over the next few weeks. But to give you an idea of what we're building, so obviously Ruji Trade is launched. There's going to be orbital pools, so not just 2-pair console liquidity, but n-pair console liquidity. On THORChain already, I think we've got like 8 different stablecoin flavors, multiple different ETH and Bitcoin flavors. So we can essentially, in our kind of orbital implementation, which I think will be one of the first to production. There is one on Arbitrum, but it's not really that matters much until it's deployed upon THORChain. That's where, if you've got stablecoins from Solana soon, Base, Ethereum, etc., all coming together. We'll have Noble.USDC soon. So it's really going to come to its own on THORChain. So super excited about that. That's just part of the strategies that are going to be wrapped by the market making infrastructure that Hans is building out. We have full steam ahead on borrow lend and an associated stablecoin, which is essentially your debt. And we've got a really cool way we're doing this. Essentially, you will have a credit account where you can load it up with your meme coins, your ERC20s, or whatever, your Bitcoin or ETH. And you can choose which of your collateral you want to mint this debt from. And even in the liquidation order, so like, you want to pick off your meme coins and your ERC20s first before you liquidate your valuable BTC. But that's just the start, because Hans and the team are also working on how to plumb that in to a true margin, or essentially like a margin account. So you can allow other people to provide liquidity on the other side of that bet and essentially earn yield, single-sided yield, providing liquidity. So this is going to be a game-changing. User experience should be literally one-click deposit, one-click borrow, mint debt, and on the other side, you'll be able to one-click deposit and passively earn yield. And essentially, I don't want to give away too many clues. Maybe Hans can take us what he's willing to share, but it'll be nowhere else, and no one else is building this yet. Essentially, like jumping on a hybrid between BitMEX and Binance and Bybit, but entirely on chain. So that's well underway. We've got an amazing team of engineers, Hubby, as you know, plus one more joining soon to really kick this off into gear. So yeah, super excited. Hans, any clues you want to give?
Not yet. I'm very excited though, as you know.
So Hans, just kind of going back to the intents a little bit. Will Ruji Trade be will SwapKit support and offer Ruji Trade? And then so when somebody's like on one of the front ends and they go to place a swap, and how they see Maya and THORChain and Chainflip and there's near, are they going to see Ruji Trade as well? Like how is this going to work?
No, so Ruji Trade is there to support those quotes, not to replace those quotes. You will so the specific technical details are yet to be ironed out. Currently, there are 2 entry points now. So there's the current swap memo. There is also now a contract execution memo, and both of those will be able to achieve the same thing. The contract execution memo will be able to route your swap through base and at player liquidity, depending on what is the optimal path. And so, we'll work with the swap routing teams like SwapKit and the others to kind of understand how to how to read the app layer liquidity, how to construct the right kind of swap routes, all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, so it's the whole point is to improve the existing quoting endpoints, not to try and build something new and replace it, because the integration's great. Obviously it's connected across Ledger and Trust and blah blah blah. So it would be a bad idea to try and replace that. The better thing that we can do is improve those quotes for THORChain, basically. Like that's half of the reason for the app layer existing, right? Is to create this this kind of aligned liquidity that is just kind of this adjacent liquidity rather, which is sits in there supporting swaps.
Yeah, the user experience on specifically that will be, instead of doing a base layer memo based swap, a swap kit can deploy a contract, and they can do a bunch of off chain and on chain essentially indexing, and you essentially what we call swap to exec. So the memo, instead of being like swap to Bitcoin blah, it will look like X colon parameters, and those parameters can be encoded and blah blah blah. But what will actually happen is your asset will get minted as a secured asset, deposited into a contract, and then split over the variety of liquidity sources: XYK, CL, app layer, base layer. It might even send it out to Maya and back again to grab some of Maya's liquidity. And so, and then at the end of that, everything gets kind of aggregated and pulled back into the contract. There might be streaming swaps in there, but there might be limit orders in there. And then the final amount was then aggregated and then sent out as a secured asset withdrawal, all in a single atomic transaction. So the swap kits and the like will be building these contracts, doing the indexing, and putting it back on. So as an example, if you want to do like a 10 Bitcoin swap, right now you might send 5 Bitcoin through a streaming swap base layer. You might send 2.5 Bitcoin to snipe this order. And then you might send, 1 over to the console liquidity pool, and you might send the last 1 to Mayor and back again. And then this all gets aggregated and then redeemed back to your address. It sounds complicated, but under the hood, the user will have no idea what just happened, and then all the money will just arrive in the wallet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So basically, when say I'm on Ledger Live and I go to place that 10 Bitcoin swap and I get my quotes, all it's going to change for the user, for me, is that I'm just going to see, hopefully I'll see THORChain at the top of the list providing the best quote. I won't care how it's getting that quote. It's all happening in the background, underneath the hood, doing all these different trades within the THORChain ecosystem. I don't know what's happening. All I know is I'm getting a great price. So nothing will effectively change on the front end.
Well, interestingly, I've noticed that the wallets are now referring to SwapKit's aggregation as just SwapKit and not THORChain, which is actually on path with the vision. THORChain's vision was always to eventually disappear away into just infrastructure that's used by aggregators. So right now, so Ledger, you'll probably see provider equals SwapKit, and SwapKit is the one that's like funneling it all the way through the liquidity sources, and obviously THORChain will be one of the larger liquidity providers for SwapKit. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. You're sparking a different conversation in my head, though. But yeah, keep going.
Awesome. So yeah, so that's on the aggregation front and the intent-based stuff. And then obviously the general Ruji stuff is tracking really nicely, but because there's also a more of a broad discussion, from the whole stack, like where we are right now, is upgrading the entire state machine, the entire ecosystem. We've already upgraded the version, deployed an app layer. 2-second block times is like just around the corner. We were just waiting for a bit of stability. More chains are en route. EDDSA is live in the next version, so you'll start to see EDDSA vaults being created, and then the next version will activate Solana and then the subsequent EDDSA chains. So that's all coming. We've also due for DKLS. So DKLS is the giant MPC upgrade. Basically, go from order n squared complexity down to order n. So instead of like 20-second or 2-minute key generation speeds, which typically holds up the churn. So every time you see a failed churn, retry churn, it's because the key gens are timing out, and it just all the nodes have to recenter. Because to do a churn, you need essentially 6 vaults of 20 nodes each to get a 9-round multi-party protocol. That's 9 times 20 in terms of number of communication complexity. It has to be perfect. And if just a single node fails, the whole thing resets and we start again. But with TKLS, because there's order and complexity, it's going to be like sub 1 second key sign and sub 3 second key gens. So it's going to massively improve the reliability of the network and scalability. In fact, theoretically, we can go from 6 volts just down and collapse it down to a single volt if we wanted to. So that's coming. There was one missing piece that we needed to see to match GG20. That's been shipped by our MPC partner last week. So expect us to try and get it on Maya protocol or stage it within the next month or two, and then definitely live on THORChain before the end of the year. And also, there's a bunch of tech debt we need to shed out and continue that. We need to upgrade the router to a stateless router v6. The reason why I'm so excited about a stateless router. So right now, the router today stores assets. It's a bit of a silly design decision we made back in 2019. And we're going to finally move it to a stateless router, where instead of this router holding assets, it's actually going to send the assets into the vaults. And this is important because keeping all the ERC20 in a router makes a bit of a target because it doesn't really churn, if you know what I mean. Like the USDC and USDCs just stay there. But a stateless router will mean that the tokens are all kept on the vaults, not the router. So it just means there's way more kind of like mixing and churning and other good stuff about that. So it makes it those assets, which are not censorship resistant, less of a target. 2, it allows the router to be upgraded immediately, literally in a single block. There's no like migration anymore. And 3, it will enable Memoless ERC20 deposits. So if you had to deposit USDC or USDT directly into a vault and trigger a Memoless path. And the Memoless is also high on my kind of like wish list before the end of the year. And I'm communicating this with 9rails, obviously. Memoless, there's 2 pathways to Memoless. One is an amount registration. So you basically like an aggregator or a quota will register your memo and retrieve back a 4 or 5 digit code. And that 4 or 5 digit code needs to be essentially the least significant digits on your deposit. So for Bitcoin, it's like the last 5 digits of Satoshis, which is really like a nothing amount anyway. Or we actually have an ability to do an address registration. So you register your from address for HT Bitcoin wallet, because often, like if you jump on Ledger Live, if you request your address, it's actually going to generate the next address in your hierarchical deterministic path. So you're currently at index 3. So when you click receive, it generates index 4, which is a different address from where your Bitcoin's currently sitting. So for Bitcoin, we'll support both from and change address registration, and that will get picked up. In any case, you'll have 2 options for Memoless. One is you can send a specific amount, or 2 is you can set a specific from address. And like I keep saying, the only griefing attack is if someone goes out and registers everyone's addresses that they're aware of, then they basically lock up those addresses can't be used for 24 hours because you're going to get a quote and it'll say address already registered. It will expire 24 hours later. There is a small griefing attack where that someone can snipe your address. That's like you will know because when you'll go request quote, someone will pay like the swap kit or someone will pay the 0.02 RUNE or whatever it is to register your address, and your quote will come back from you, and you'll see the actual memo that you're registering or the swap intent. So before you click send and you pay your money into that QR code, just triple check that the swap intent is what is matching your specifications. And everyone should be doing this anyway. And if it is, then away we go. So I think Memoless is such an easy kill. And Kenton, you're always going on about, THORChain should run a low fee UI. I actually think this is a good candidate for that. That once we ship both the amount registration and the address registration Memoless methods, the treasury should run a low fee UI, and it's literally should just pay for bringing users, because these users are not anyone else's users, right? You go to this UI because you want to use any wallet under the sun, right? You're not a Thor wallet user, you're not a Ledger user, you're just a user somewhere in the world. So that's definitely a good candidate to do that.
Yeah, I'm really hot on that because I appreciate the idea and the vision of THORChain being infrastructure behind the scenes. You don't see, but at the same time, I don't see why can't it be both? Like, why can't we have that invisible infrastructure part of the market and our own front end? Like, to me, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. and doesn't hurt us. It's just, helps us. So yeah, and we can be more bit, we can be a bit more in control of our own destiny too by promoting it and marketing it. And how many times have you been on Twitter, and we've all done it? Oh, you should use THORChain, use THORChain. It's like, well, it's a pretty nebulous thing to say, because how do you use THORChain? It takes like 6 steps to figure it out after that. Instead you can just say, use this website, and that by default is using THORChain. So and if Memoless
Yeah.
swaps is the easy way to do it, then great, let's do it.
Yeah, 100%. It could be the identical user experience. If you jump on Change now or Chain Jelly, like all you do is specify your swap intent. You click next, spits out a QR code and address to the amount, and then away you go. And then you know, sometime later you hopefully get your money back. So that this UI is very simple. It's just like some kind of small backend that is attached to a RUNE wallet, registering memos. It does need a capture because you don't want to be like completely DOSed by bots. So there will be a capture somewhere along that user journey, but ultimately it will just be a QR code and or a specific amount to send. And so yeah, super excited about that.
And maybe just to help remind people too, like the problem with the way the regular sites, like for THORSwap, for example, they have to support all these different wallets, and that's like the bulk of the work on creating that website, is supporting all those wallets. With Memoless transactions, you can have a website that you don't connect the wallet, so you don't have all that burden, that headache, all that developer time to support all these different wallets. In essence, every wallet is supported with Memoless.
Yeah,
Is that right,
yeah, true.
JP?
And you could even yeah, 100%. You could even have like literally dogeswap.com or bitcoincashswap.com or litecoinswap.com. You know, you could like SEO the crap out of it. So when someone's saying how to swap my Litecoin, you SEO it and intercept them and send them over to just a Litecoin looking memoless website where it's like, oh, you want to swap your Litecoin to USDC? Boom, 2 steps, you're done, right? And it's as simple as that. And I've told Nine Realms this, like this, it's such an easy feature. It's like ridiculously easy. All you got to do is it's a new deposit. It's a new deposit handler where you just register a memo, spit out a code, and lock in a channel for 24 hours, and you're done. It's like less than 100 lines of code. It can be shipped tomorrow.
And it's not just Doge.swap or Litecoin.swap, but I could do Kenton.swap, right? I could set up my own website, right? If the lift of creating this website is really light, this opens the door for influencers to create their own sites and tack on their own fee, right?
Yeah, 100%. You could have the nested affiliates so that the base Thorc UI is earning 1 bips or whatever, and the affiliate is earning like, I don't know, 5 or 10 bips. So then everyone's like shilling the swap websites, and away you go. And you can even have a little Docker Compose, and you can one-click deploy it on your DigitalOcean, and then there could be a million swap websites, and we just fucking DOS the fuck out of it.
So like the thing with Memoless transactions isn't just for a THORChain only front end. It is still to enable that background infrastructure play where there could be 1,000 different front ends of using Memoless transactions, all with their own branding. So Memoless transactions does still help facilitate that in the background infrastructure play too.
Yeah, 100%.
So Code Hans said he had only 30 minutes. We're at the 30-minute mark. You were giggling at one point, Code Hans, thinking about how awesome it's going to be. Are you able to shed any time frame roughly at all, or are you feeling optimistic it's going to be good execution? I know that's a hard question, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, things are moving fairly quickly now. There was a lot of kind of foundational pieces, not just on the Thor node side with Cosmosm and the actual app node pieces there, but as far as actually delivering the apps and like boring shit like middleware and APIs and wallet signers, all that kind of stuff. But that's all in place now. Yeah, as Jeffrey said, we brought in a couple of really good new Cosmosm devs. There's more guys joining the team to help out with different parts of the stack. So things are moving quickly. We've got a really strong kind of holistic architecture for how this whole thing works together. So yeah, like no timelines as ever, but hopefully soon. And I'm incredibly excited. There's going to be some very cool things. I mean, like so with the lending plus stablecoin, the one thing that is very exciting is that we'll be able to spit out an Athena type stablecoin out of the box, and that'll just be one kind of way of delivering the borrow lend perps blah 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 products, like as a kind of unified aggregate experience. But yeah.
Hans, are there some things that are actually technically live and you're just kind of playing with it? You just haven't really promoted it. But if somebody's really savvy and they want to go start tinkering around with anything within the Rujira suite, can they do that, or is everything still closed off?
Yeah. So the trading pairs for the migrated assets are live. It was supposed to be this week, but there's been various things that bumped it. Very soon we'll be shipping the trading pairs for all the base layer assets, all the big ones at least. Big ones paired with USDC, then all the kind of like isomorphic assets, all the pegged assets, USDCs and USDTs and wrap Bitcoin, CBTC, blah blah blah. But the thing that's holding that up slightly is that market orders, as people are kind of familiar with them, just kind of buying or selling into the book, wouldn't be a good trade because the actual atomic book there doesn't have massive liquidity. We're virtualizing the base layer liquidity, and so we're kind of reimagining what it should look like to trade on a pair like this, like, because actually you don't care if you're selling it using a market or a limit or an oracle order. You care about how fast my trade's going to get executed, what price is going to get executed at, all of which we can kind of provide some guarantees for. And so we're kind of reimagining a whole order management, order placement interface to make that trading experience for these base layer pairs. But when you're trading secured assets on the app layer, could be really nice. So that's coming very, very soon. Those pairs should be deployed in the next few days. And then the UI, I want to get the UI up first, actually, so people don't start wrecking themselves. But yeah, so that'll be the next thing. And then most of the stuff gets deployed to StageNet first, which is obviously a live environment with real money. Lending's live on StageNet. Maybe we can start shipping some of that to the UIs. We can start depositing to a lending market just to play around with it, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So what will be available to trade? Just the gas tokens, like on like just the 9 different chains gas tokens, or will you be able to do any ERC20?
So we
for example,
cherry picked a list. If you go to Rujira.network now and go to spot trading, you'll see all the pairs that are due to be launched in preview mode.
Okay. Can you, do you have an idea how many, like what the number is? Is it a few hundred? Is it
I think there's
a couple
15
dozen?
or 20. I think we've got all
Okay.
everything, all the major gas tokens plus kind of the major ERC20s on those chains are paired with USDC. We also then have every other flavor of USDC paired with ETHUSDC, plus DAI, plus and actually there's some new BSC pools that go live in the last couple of days, so we'll be adding them as well.
Okay, gotcha. So will Ruji Trade be able to tap into DEX aggregation, or no? Just whatever's on Ruji Trade, that's just what's available.
Yeah, Ruji Trade is responsible for kind of secured assets, which
Yeah.
are the ones that have base layer pools.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Patriot, you have anything you want to ask Hans?
Well, there's so much going on, you guys. How could I possibly ask a question that can encapsulate all of that stuff? I just want to say, because I know your time's limited, man, I just want to thank you for all your hard work, because I know it was a slog to get to this point. And you were working on THORChain architecture. You weren't even working on the stuff that you built, and you and your team had to slot this all in. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the greatest power-ups we've ever seen ever in the history of our ecosystem. And I am just so excited to see this deliver. And I know you're drawing a lot of personal satisfaction from this. So I just hope you take the moment to appreciate this, dude, and you just enjoy the hell out of this moment, because you earned it. And so did all the Rujirans and THORchads out there earned it. So just thank you so much, man. I'm just so grateful right now.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's power up for you guys. Power up for it's a power up for Kajira and what we built. We were struggling with the connections, the layer ones, and the liquidity, and this is just it's kind of relit something for me, and we have an opportunity now to build that thing, build that decentralized Binance, that decentralized exchange experience that is everyone's been promising for years now, and nobody's actually spent the time to deliver it, right? Think about how long. Every time I dig into a new part of the THORChain stack, I'm just I'm blown away by the amount of thought and the complexity of it, and the way that complexity is then taken away from you, and you can't just you can't spin up a new layer one and say, hey, we're going to be a decentralized Binance because we have this one clever piece of technology, because that's not how it works, right? It works because you have years and years and years of experience and blood, sweat, and tears that boil down into a stack. And I see that every time. That's like I say, every time I open a door and into a new bit of the code base, you see it there. And this is, I feel like this is now that moment, right? This all kind of comes together, and we have that opportunity to actually build that.
God,
Awesome.
I'm so glad you said that, because for years and years and years, people would ask me just what are you guys doing? What are the devs doing? And I'd be like, they're working really hard, you guys. You don't understand how complicated this is. And I'm so glad you said that. So it just gives an impression to everyone listening, and maybe who's listening to this recording, to do this is really, really complex. But finally, after all this time, all the nuances, all the niggles in the code, as you say, Code Hans, all the bugs, all the weird edge cases, we're finally at the point where we got it. We got a strong foundation, and now we're ready just to launch. So I am so glad you said that, because it gives good perspective, because a lot of people, they just see update after update and they don't notice a lot of changes. But what's really happening is core, incredibly powerful, fundamental, improvements of the protocol are happening underneath. So awesome stuff, man.
That's it. Cool. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Hans.
sir.
Yep. Awesome. We'll do this again sometime.
We will. See you guys.
Bye, brother. Well, how can you be bullish after that, you guys? Or how can you be bearish, excuse me, after that? That was incredible. Damn, how exciting. I think one thing for me is I just got to try to be humble, because I don't understand. There is so much he said right there. And there's a lot of things I don't understand fully. I understand superficially what's going on, but I'm just going to have to take a slice of humble pie. That's why we got to keep doing these spaces, guys, because you guys are going to have a vision of what's possible. I might not be there yet. So we just got to keep talking this thing through. And just let us know what you need from people like myself who understand THORChain much better than Rujira. This is going to be a growing thing for both of us. So let's just work together and keep this positive environment going, guys. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
It'll be easier once it's live, I think. Well, for me anyway. Once it's live, go play with it and tinker around, and then I think it'll definitely sink in, make more sense, be easier to grasp. So yeah, but it is cool. I brought up is it Sarosa? Sorry, I forget who I just added as a speaker.
Saroshi.
Yeah.
Go ahead and test your mic, man.
Yeah. And sorry if you're hoping to chat with JP or Hans, but it looks like JP's gone too. Hans had to leave. Saroshi.
Your mic's not working, man. You want to try again? We'll go to Eric if you're having troubles there. We'll try it. We'll swing back to you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Hey guys, is my
Yep.
sound okay? Because sometimes
Yes.
it glitches.
Yep. Good.
Yeah. So, hey, Kenton. So you were mentioning something very, very interesting, and I think that it's worth discussing it a little bit. Meanwhile, Sarashi tests his microphone, but I'm going to say something that probably some of the front ends are thinking when they heard what you said. So having a dedicated THORChain front end sounds incredibly good for THORChain as the base layer, as thinking as a RUNE holder. How can we maximize the ease of use of getting into the whole ecosystem? Because like you said, it needs 6 clicks and understanding all of the layers to actually get things done. And truth be told, front ends we still need to get the user experience to a level where anyone with a little with the fewest the smallest knowledge about THORChain, they can do things in the in the ecosystem. But at the same time, I'm going to say something that probably they are all thinking. If they have to compete with THORChain without affiliate fees, it's going to become very hard because also they don't have a lot of marketing budget. And for example, Mocha is not going to depend. We actually do not depend on affiliate fees on the front end. Our business model depends on something completely different. So it wouldn't really affect us if there's a dedicated THORChain front end. But it sounds to me like if THORChain comes up with this, it might be competing with all of the interfaces that actually help THORChain go wide. So
yeah, I can address that.
Yeah.
Literally every other exchange that these front ends have integrated have their own interface. THORChain is the exception, is the only one that does not. So why are these other front ends have integrated all these other exchanges that have their own front ends, if it's such a problem?
Did they started with their own front end and then other interfaces who were agnostic integrated that? For, let's say, for example, Maya Protocol, they have their own front end, right? They started like this and then others adopted it, or was it the other way around? Because it sounds to me like for THORChain, it would be the other way around. Like, hey, everyone has this, and we already have like 12 wallet integrations. We have 15 front ends. So let's cook our own front end and have this marketing budget. And, it kind of feels like if there hasn't been one since the beginning and it wasn't THORChain's approach, right now it would be like some sort of play to see how it can grab volume, like, and how it could be seen, the perception. And like I said,
I understand.
It doesn't affect Mocha.
I understand perception. It's all people's feelings. So I feel pretty strongly about this. Basically, Cry Me a River. It's competition. Like this is how free markets work. Are we crying? Is these front ends, they're allowed to integrate other exchanges and route the trades elsewhere, and we're supposed to be okay, like happy and, oh yeah, it's great, it's awesome, hey, competition, free market. Yet when we want to compete, oh no, well, you can't do that. Oh, how are they going to feel about that? To be frank, they shouldn't feel anything. They shouldn't care because the front end has their own audience, right? So it's not THORChain's audience. It's Trust Wallet's audience. It's Ledger's audience. If THORChain has its own front end, it's going to develop its own audience. Sure, okay, fine. Maybe some people come from Trust and Ledger and come use this front end. That might happen. But it's to think that all of the users are going to leave all the different front ends and only go to THORChain is actually ridiculous. And we have real world test case for this. Remember when in the first few years of THORChain's life, AsgardX and THORSwap, I think AsgardX was charging like 10 bips. THORSwap was 30. Then came out Trust Wallet. They're charging 70 bips. Everyone's freaking out. Why is people using Trust Wallet when AsgardX is only 10 basis points? Trust Wallet is 70 basis points. All this volume is on Trust Wallet and they're paying 70 basis points. It doesn't make any sense because it's Trust Wallet's audience. It's separate from AsgardX audience. Like the people aren't running around looking for the cheapest price. That just isn't how markets work. And this exists beyond crypto as well. Like look at like designer luxury goods, Gucci bags and stuff. Like people go to Coach in these expensive stores. They're paying thousands of dollars for the experience, for their brand. Where they can go get the same bag at the trunk of someone's car in an alley in China for like $50. Why don't they go to that alley and buy that bag out of the car for $50? Like that's not the experience they're looking for. It's the exact same bag, but they're two totally different markets. And so it's the exact same thing with THORChain having some front end. It's not like there's this fixed number of users and we're all scraping, clawing, for our that piece of the pie. The pie keeps growing. So like TrustWallet can have its own users, Ledger, THORSwap, Mocha, you guys can all have the same users. THORChain can spit up its own front end and can very likely get like, you know, X amount of brand new users without taking any from anywhere else. And if people are leaving front ends that come to THORChain, well, that forces other front ends to compete, and then they can lower their fees and whatever. So instead of THORChain being forced on a race to the bottom on its swap fees, the front ends can be forced to lower their affiliate fees, their commissions, and then we're much more on equal footing. But where it's at right now, like, this is not good for THORChain. If we have to race to the bottom, like you know, split hairs between 5 basis points and 6 basis points, you know, 8 basis points on the debate right now, like this is not a good business, you guys. It is a bad business. And you know, you want, you know, institutional money and big money to come invest in RUNE and THORChain. Like, I'm telling you, you see that and you're like, this is not a good business. Like, this is a bad one. You know, we have to have some pricing power. And you know, the best way we can do that is with our own front end. And you know, if we do suck users from elsewhere, fine. Like, well, what's better, having 100,000 users split over a few dozen front ends, or having 1 million users just on a THORChain front end? And like the argument against that THORChain front end is that, you know, regulatory capture. You know, what if it gets shut down? You know, I'm sure we can find somebody, you know, who's at an arm's length to THORChain, like not a node operator, not 9 realms, to run the site. Like, it's not, I don't think it's that crazy or hard. So long rant there, Eric, but I'll just rephrase: cry me a river. Like, you know, I think the big front ends are the ones that I don't think they would care, to be honest.
Yeah, and it does make sense. And for what it's worth, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and you know, trying to spike the conversation, because I know that it's something that plenty of people are interested in hearing about it. And here's the thing. While I agree with you with the free market and how it's all about growing the pie, when, like, we have to ask ourselves: does THORChain look at the front ends as partners, as competition, as members of the market trying to grow THORChain? Because I see a lot of front ends who are pretty vocal about, hey, we're only able to do this and to offer this to our users thanks to THORChain. There's a lot of marketing there to THORChain through these third parties. And when you, like, if you antagonize, so, like, maybe this is not the word, but you know, English is my second language, so if you antagonize the front ends by competing directly with them, are they going to keep as excited as THORChain as they are, or they might, I don't know,
Yes.
integrate
Yeah.
integrate all of this?
Yeah, let me walk you through the logic in your statement. So that's like saying, well, if Trust Wallet integrated THORChain, we can't let Ledger integrate THORChain because that might piss off Trust Wallet. That's not fair to Trust Wallet, because Ledger might take users from Trust Wallet. So don't let Ledger integrate THORChain. Right? It's the exact same thing. You know, it doesn't matter who is running the front end. They're all competing with each other, right? And really, at the end of the day, what these front ends want, they just want the cheapest route. That's all they're doing. They're just looking, you know, that's all they're going to provide for the users. And you talk about a partnership. Yeah, okay, sure, it's a partnership, but it's not an exclusive one. Like, you know, when you get married, that's an exclusive relationship. You're not going to go sleep with other people. We don't have exclusive relationships with these front ends because they're sleeping with other people, right? So it's like, imagine if you're in a relationship with a chick, she can go sleep with other guys, but you can't sleep with other girls. Like, come on, man. Like, how cucked is that? So like, it's either you both get the freedom or you both don't. So if a front end had an exclusive relationship with THORChain, was THORChain only, and they said, well, hey guys, then I would agree with you. I'd be like, okay, well, maybe, right, you know, we have a handshake deal to give somebody exclusivity to THORChain. We're not going to go have our own THORChain only front end. Then I might agree with you. But as long as these front ends are more than happy to route trades to other exchanges, game on. we should have our own front end. And I genuinely don't believe it's competing with them. But we should have our own and be able to promote that and drive our own traffic to it instead of driving traffic to another front end who may or may not swap the route through THORChain, right? So like we do all this work and effort to get THORChain out there and tell people what front ends to use it so that they might have the trade go through THORChain. Like it's ridiculous.
Can I jump in a little bit here? Because let's break down the competition angle a little bit here. So guys, I'm speaking from the RUNE bond account. So please click on it and follow the RUNE bond account because we have a lot of great ideas coming. But RUNE bond is a great candidate for this Memoless transaction feature, right? Because when you have a site, we're providing a service. We're trying to make new entrants into the ecosystem be able to bond to nodes in a very intuitive and efficient manner. Well, we need to make money somehow, right? So when we say competition, let's just juxtapose like, like a swap kit or a Dorito swap or whatever, like, whatever they are, Rango, right? They have much more swap routes because of DEX aggregation, right? So the competition word doesn't really fit because if we have a THORChain specific interface, we're doing things that only can happen on THORChain. If someone needs an asset, pick up, Arbitrum or whatever, Zcash, that route will be facilitated by an interface that supports that route via DEX aggregation. And that's a unique advantage that they have over THORChain that we can't compete with, or the THORChain interface, I should say. So I don't really see a problem with this either, right? And at the point at which, like, if someone integrates THORChain and like if we lose swap volume to a competitor, especially over something, and this is being worked on, I don't want to throw shade on anyone. This is a hard thing to fix, but especially for losing volume to dodgy optimistic quoting parameters, right? That sucks. That sucks. If we're losing volume to a competitor because we are too honest, right? Or we're trying to be as honest as possible, that's a problem. And again, no shade to anyone. This is a very hard problem to solve. I've talked to numerous people about it, but there are many reasons why I think a THORChain specific interface can happen. And if we just think it's just THORChain wanting to compete with everyone on that level, I think that's just too simplistic of an argument to make, especially when I said there's utility where you can, other interfaces can prop up like RuneBond, where we can monetize this, and then we can provide a good service like on-ramping new people to bond their RUNE. I'll stop there.
No, that was good. And I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm getting a bit worked up, emotional. And Eric, I probably cut you off, which isn't fair. But I just want to add one thing to what Petra is saying. If we have, like, if we're losing the trade route to another exchange because we're not the cheapest, how do we get the cheapest? Well, instead of a race to the bottom on our fees, we improve liquidity on THORChain, right? And so a great way to do that is we have our own front end. That gets the volume up, gets the fees up, that improves liquidity on THORChain. That will then make trade execution cheaper, more efficient on THORChain, which will boost us and get us up more naturally on the preferred routes in our other front ends, these other interfaces. And don't kid yourself, these other interfaces, they want THORChain because it's the only way to trade, Bitcoin and crypto in size, right? We all know this. So it's not like they're gonna like arbitrarily turn off THORChain because their feelings are hurt. Like that would be, cutting off their nose to spite their face. So in theory, in essence, the best thing we can do for these other front ends is to increase volume on THORChain to give their users the cheapest quotes to, that they can offer to their users. So yeah, it requires much more bigger picture thinking. It's not just a simple first order or thought. Like you got to go 3 or 4 orders into it. But Eric, I have to apologize. I probably cut you off when you were talking because I was getting animated. Was there more that you wanted to say?
No, it's fine. No, and I think that it's good to have these kind of conversations here because the people who are listening who might have the same arguments for or against having THORChain their own front end, because we hold RUNE, and not most, a big chunk of the RUNE holders also hold some cacao. And then you have other aggregators and other integrators, and people have their own, you could call them teams, and then you're saying, okay, maybe I have TGT, but I also have RUNE. I want RUNE to succeed, but maybe I also hold Fox from Shapeshift. So you want to have this conversation so that when arguments arise and maybe we go through with having the THORChain front end, it's already been discussed. It doesn't feel like it was something that was just spawned because a couple of people wanted it. So I mean, forgive me for playing devil's advocate, but I think that going very deep into this, it's the only way that when it happens, if it happens, there's not a lot of public uneasiness.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree, but I guess the main thing is, if somebody's worried about competition, all they're doing is telling you how insecure they are about their own product. If somebody has a really solid product, they should be happy about competition because they know the competition can't beat them, and it just elevates their own product further. It's yeah, and that's one thing I always give kudos to JP about. He's always promoted THORChain and be like, fork it, do it. It's open source. You can do better, go for it. And nobody has, because nobody can. And it's really elevated THORChain. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure a front end could get offended or get butthurt, but again, I just go back to look at what already exists. Every other exchange that these front ends have integrated, they have their own unique interface too. Right? Go on Trust Wallet. Go place a swap. They're starting to route through Rango Exchange now. Rango has their own front end, their own website. Go on Ledger. You don't even have to connect your Ledger to Ledger Live. Just open Ledger Live. Just enter and go to swap. Put in 5 Bitcoin for ETH or whatever. Just do some random things. See all the exchanges that come up. All those exchanges have their own front ends. Like the idea that THORChain has its own front end is all of a sudden going to make the world implode, and 1 divided by 0 and everything's going to stop is absolutely ridiculous. Like I don't understand why this is why so many people think it's such a big deal.
I'll add a little to what you're saying, Kenton. I think one thing that's underappreciated, this is what you said in your first statement, Kenton, is the growth of the pie itself, right? People coming on into this ecosystem, they're going to be in the hundreds of millions, eventually billions, right? They're not going to understand anything. And especially, where this industry is going, there's going to be more different change, more ecosystems. They're not going to understand THORChain. They're not going to understand that THORChain has its own interface right off the bat. So many people are going to start with Trust Wallet, or they're going to start with Mocha for the first time using cross-chain liquidity to buy goods and services, right, Eric? And so they're going to start from a position of extreme ignorance. This should not, I think, make anyone at all worried at all. And every single interface, regardless if you have DEX aggregation, you promote one pro, you're all going to do extremely well because, again, this industry is so freaking small. It is tiny. It is tiny where we're at right now. I mean, just the swap volume we have to capture for sexes alone right now. If no one else entered this ecosystem, we had 0 new entrants for 10 years, we would still have such amazing growth potential from siphoning away that swap volume alone. So yeah, I'm on Kenton's side on this one. I don't think that the fear is there. With the Coke, I see your hand up, but I just want to kick it to Kenton real quick if he had a
Yeah, sorry with the Coke. I'm on a roll. I'm ranting here. I got more to add. So just going back to fees, right? Trust Wallet is 70 basis points. I think Ledger is like 140. THORSwap, I think, is now 50 basis points. Asgard X is 30 basis points. And if you look at all the other front ends, everyone's all probably somewhere in the middle, right? It's the idea that the consumer just goes for the lowest price. Whoever is saying that out loud has no idea about economics, doesn't understand markets at all. There's all different price points, and all those price points are for the relationship, right? People have a relationship with Trust Wallet. That's why they're happy to pay it. People have a relationship with Ledger. That's why they're happy to pay it. And so if you're a new front end, you're going to go out, you're going to get customers, get users. The relationship is going to be with you, that front end, right? And not with THORChain, right? And so they're paying for the relationship with the front end. and whatever you're delivering to them, it's like, yeah, they might know about it, but does it mean they're going to go around you to THORChain? So for example, you go to a restaurant and it's, they have the ranch where the steak, the cow, the beef is from. Like, do you think the person's going to get up out of the table, walk out the door, go drive to that ranch and go buy the cow and, buy the steak and go cook it at home? Like, no, they're like, that doesn't happen. Somebody might, the odd person who's really motivated might eat that steak at the restaurant. Like, man, this is good meat. I'm gonna go to that ranch and get some myself. Like, yeah, that might happen, but that's just not how markets work. And so going back to, we're talking about memoless transactions would be an easy way to spin up a THORChain front end. There's going to be people who don't want to do a memoless transaction. They don't want to learn anything new. I've got my ledger. I understand how it works. I can do clear signing on Ledger Live. I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to learn anything new. I'm done. Those just stick with Ledger. Same with people in Trust Wallet. People in Mocha and whatever. People get used to their ways, right? And they get stuck in their groove. They don't want to change. And they understand how it works. It's easy, it's comfortable, right? So that'd be my only, like, personally for me, if I'm like, the memoless transaction thing is like, we have to teach somebody how to right? How to do things a new way. Like that is a hurdle to overcome. But that'll create its own audience, that people do want to learn that. And maybe they are new to crypto and that's the first way they'll learn it. And that's the only way they use it going forward. But that's going to be its own audience, right? People willing to use memoless transactions versus using their wallet. So it's not like everyone's going to automatically stop using all of their wallets and go straight to memoless transactions. Like that it's not going to happen. It's kind of like us, our bet on THORChain. Is everybody stopping using Binance and Coinbase and now trading on THORChain? Like THORChain's better, right? Why aren't they doing that? Because they're used to Coinbase and Binance. Like they're just comfortable there. Like the real growth in THORChain is basically their first user experience using THORChain and whatever interface they're using. So, it's really hard to steal users from other platforms because that platform has the relationship. So, yeah, again, I go back to, if anyone's worried about competition, is because they're really insecure about their relationship with their users or insecure with the product they're giving their users. And that's a reflection on them, not THORChain. So I'll stop there. Let you go with the Coke.
Yeah, hey, I hope you can hear me. So, yeah, I'm in your camp, Canton, as well, and you kind of
With the Coke, are you there?
I can hear him. He's speaking.
Okay. Can you speak?
Sorry, guys. I know I'm ranting. I'm getting worked up.
Yeah, you're fine. Hey, if everyone in the audience, can you?
I can't hear you, buddy. I see your mute is off.
Oh, can you hear me, Kenton?
I can hear you, Patriots.
Patriots, Kenton, are you there, Eric?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I think Kenton cannot
Am I
hear
the one
us.
gone?
Just 1 second. I'm gonna tell him on Telegram.
You guys hear me?
Yes. I guess Kenton got so wrapped up.
Someone in the audience, maybe you can. Okay, I guess a thumbs up. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't hear anyone else.
So, we'll try. We'll see if we can. Kenton to maybe come down to host. Hey, Eric, could you? You got a hot mic.
We got dead silence on the radio. This isn't good, guys. Anybody else in the audience want to come up and speak?
Hey, okay. God dang it. X spaces suck ass. You know that, guys? Let's just be real. X spaces.
Wait, guys, text me in the Telegram group
ass.
chat. Maybe I can't hear you, but you can hear me.
God, I hate X spaces. It's such a fucking bummer. With the Coke, hold your thought. Once Kenton figures it out, we'll continue.
Yep, I'm still here. No worries, no worries. So that's a perfect example. If X doesn't get the shit together, like competition will leave, or they have the majority of the mind share, and the competition will stick.
Yeah.
So
yes,
it's exactly we have to adapt to the. I mean, as what I want to say that Kenton kind of mentioned a lot. What I had in mind as well. You cannot be insecure in your business or your the services that you provide for your customer. For example, if you're Ledger, you provide your hardware wallets. There's no good for integration for Ledger if they will just switch to the, like, I don't know, back up all the seeds and stuff. They almost kinda, I guess they kinda amputated one hand of their business already. Kinda just had a little trip of seed there in the brains of users that, okay, is my seed clear or not? Is it safe or not? So every business has to be evolving through years through changes and everything. So same with Mocha. Like Mocha is coming to the on the crypto field, providing some different type of perspective when becoming like a crypto vendor and stuff. So I think if you have a business plan that we come up with the Mocha, and our main business is that we can use THORChain, then you should scrap your business plan right away and go back, because the main business should be Mocha, and the added value is THORChain in the back end. And same with Ledger. The main business is the hardware wallet, maybe the customer support, all the use cases that Ledger provides for the Ledger Live, and there is the added benefit of the THORChain. And with THORChain as well, like you, Patriot, you mentioned, like we have some people, some companies doing like really optimistic quoting. Also, we don't cry when the near comes gets integrated into the swap kit. They have like maybe some offline resolvers or whatever. So and all this is competition actually for THORChain as well. So we as a THORChain users or like developers, JP cannot sit on his hands at all. He has to think every day, like, okay, how is the industry evolving? What's the next steps? How can we be better? And yeah, I think it's competition both ways. Integrators, aggregators, they will, for some reason, they want to have like a decentralized aggregation, but they still use like resolvers. That is not 100% safe and on chain. And yeah, we will deal with that. We have our Rujira coming, and they will try to get quotes better, as codehan's mentioned before. So I think
Yeah.
I'm down with Kenton. Cry me a river.
Yeah, I think, and especially this time, this is such a unique period, right? Because THORChain is just approaching adolescence here. Like, I think of still THORChain kind of as like a teenager, okay? When we were in ChaosNet, we were a baby learning how to crawl and feed ourselves and, potty train, all that stuff. We're a teenager right now. There will become a point where, the volume is so good that, yeah, we will kind of slot in the background, but we're still in that intermediary phase. With Rujira Kit coming on, more swap volume, more integrations. I think this is just going to be a natural evolution of time. So people who are interfaces right now, if I had any advice to you whatsoever, is don't be pessimistic, don't be optimistic. Just put your nose to the grindstone and ship code and make the best product you can. You will do well if you manage to do that. Okay, we got another speaker, Atariaxia. Your mic's open. Go ahead.
Okay, my friend. I really support THORChain has its own website, but you need to keep the low feed with the affiliate, because THORChain has no real customers yet. It has the other wallets like Trust Wallet or wherever you want to say, but you need to offer in the THORChain website a high fee. Like if Trust Wallet just keep like 1% of each fee if it's swapped, you can do the same. You cannot offer the same swap for less, because you will lose the customer. You will lose Trust Wallet. Maybe you will gain a customers, individual customers, but they have the volume right now. You need to keep the wallets, and also you need to grow your user base.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one point. That's how airlines works, by the way. They use the agency for they give a discount to the agency so they can sell the tickets, but they offers directly to the passenger and high rate, and that's you get the best of the two worlds. You can get you can get access to the. Sorry, my English is not too well, but I think I can explain my point with that. Another question. Why why is 50-50 the relationship with Rujira and RUNE? I can understand that because RUNE has right now like 426 million tokens, I think so. And Rujira will have like 120 million tokens. Imagine this is one person per token. So why they are accumulate 50% and we have more tokens and just keep the 50%? They will use our liquidity, and I just don't know how they took this percent. Maybe we can renegotiate. Maybe we can take another 10%.
Okay, so you think Rujira is getting too good of a deal? Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not fair for THORChain.
Okay,
It's not fair.
Hang on though. Let's just take this one step at a time. Let's start with your first point. I don't want to I'll forget some of the things you said. So I don't believe your juxtaposition between airlines to THORChain and interfaces really makes sense. In fact, this is a huge 0-to-1 new marketing landscape. It's hard to find things in the real world with like that have verisimilitude or sorry, that are adjacent enough where they make sense. So when you say Trust Wallet, let's take Trust Wallet as an example. Trust Wallet would be very different than the interface on THORChain. First off, it can be done on the mobile phone in a wallet, right? That's really unique. That's a different interface. They have different options, right? They have all kinds of different features because on THORChain it'd just be a real basic swap mechanism is how I envision it, right? And so by virtue of that, you wouldn't want to charge the same fee structures because our product, as the THORChain interface specific, would be inferior to that of various interfaces like Trust Wallet or Thor Wallet or THORSwap or Rujira or XDeFi, or not XDeFi, it's a control wallet, whatever. So it cannot do everything that a wallet plus. And plus, to Kenton's point, and this is true, people like using Trust Wallet because they feel safe with it, right? Trust Wallet is an established brand, and they have years and years and years of not having exploits that affect all their users. And so that comes with a premium. People will stay on Trust Wallet, or they'll stay on Thor Wallet, or whatever interface, insert your interface here, Rango, doesn't matter, because for whatever reason they have. So it's just charging the same fee doesn't work. Now, to your second point.
Yeah, but Trust Wallet is our real customer. We need to keep them with us.
Well, hang on. It's not a one-way street. We provide a service for them. Okay, like they use us, like they're their customer. We're also their customer. Like we provide them a service. They provide us with users on volume, right? So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. There's no reason for them to get rid of us because we're not going to be taking Trust Wallet users. Okay, like a lot of Trust Wallet users, they look at their wallet like 3 times a year. They're not interested, as in Kenton saying, like we cannot assign a level of sophistication, because everyone listening right here, like yourself, Pragmatic Monkey, everyone listening, I would say all of you are extremely sophisticated users in the crypto space. The vast majority of people are not like you at all. They just want a simple, easy, low cognitive burden, boom, boom, boom. But let me go to your second point, okay? So the fee model in Rujira, I'm actually surprised. I thought you were going to take the other argument because a lot of people think that actually THORChain gets too good of a deal. But let me just bring it down like this. Let's 50-50, okay? What Rujira brings to THORChain is truly incredible. It is absolutely incredible. It is the biggest 0-to-1 that THORChain has ever had ever. And what you saw codehan's bringing, it is going to revolutionize the utility of THORChain and potentially bring the most amazing volume, I think for sure, that we have ever seen. In fact, without Rujira, I would make the argue that THORChain's climb to the top would be extremely more difficult, nigh maybe even impossible. So I think that is well worth 50%. In fact, Rujira may become so successful that they may look at THORChain and say, you know, I don't think we need to be sharing 50% with you motherfuckers. I think you guys have too good of a deal, right? And I actually been floating the joke in my head. Like a lot of people got said was I think Pragmatic Monkey, you were the one who said, you know, maybe one day we'll consider, you know, merging Rujira into RUNE to unify the communities. Actually, might be funny if it'd be like RUNE merged into Ruji, right? Like it's actually the opposite happens. So, for now, listen. THORChain is the base liquidity that Rujira needs to use for its swaps. They are providing a unique service that is a 0 to 1 that has the potential to redefine everything to make THORChain become the decentralized Binance of the world. I think the 50-50 model is makes a lot of sense right now. Let's see where this goes. We have so much to learn about not only the possibilities, but about each other as well. But I'm going to kick it to Pragmatic Monkey real quick, Atexia, just so because he is someone who's actively building and he can maybe add some more context.
Hey guys, hey Atraxia. No, I think there is a big misunderstanding here. Like we are not. You are presenting like Rujira is getting 50% of the fee from THORChain. Rujira is not. It's a one-way road. Rujira is paying fees, 50% of the revenue of its app to THORChain. Rujira is not receiving a single cent from THORChain. So all the revenue from all the swap, from all the base layer pools, nothing of that goes to Rujira. And actually, when Rujira apps use liquidity from the base layer pool, they pay a liquidity fee, same as any other users. So I think like you really like to understand this key thing. No, there is no revenue. It's a one-way road. It's just Rujira is purely additive to THORChain. Without Rujira, THORChain doesn't with Rujira, THORChain doesn't lose anything. It just gets a new revenue stream on top of the stream that is currently the main one. That is the fee from base layer swap in the cross-chain swap in the base layer pools.
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you
Sorry about
great.
earlier, you guys. Okay, good. Sorry about earlier, you guys. Yeah, at Araxia, I hope, like, and maybe another way to think about it is imagine on Trust Wallet, we could force them to give us 50% of what the fee they add on, like that 70 basis points. Imagine if we can get 50% of that. That's basically what we're doing to Rujira. And like actually technically that is written in the code in THORChain, but I don't to me it doesn't make any sense because all that does is just increase the cost to trade on Trust Wallet because Trust Wallet, they want to make their 70 basis points regardless of how much we get. It would just make THORChain's quotes more expensive. But so with the relationship with Rujira, it's almost like a captured audience. So we can demand that, right? But in theory, if we want app layer to grow, and this is something Pragmatic Monkey and I maybe we debate on, like in my mind, we should have like 10 different Rujiras built on top of THORChain on app layer. And if we want to get all these different platforms on, THORChain should actually lower its take. You know, but think of that 50% of us taking from Rujira as like 50% tax, right? So to come develop in THORChain's country, to come have a business, you got to pay 50% tax to THORChain's government. It's like, well, that's a pretty high tax jurisdiction. The jurisdictions with 10% tax, they flourish and grow and they're much better, right? So, if anything, maybe THORChain's tax should come down so we can encourage more development, yeah, go ahead, Pragmatic.
No, that's it. I just wanted to touch on that, like to understand it's a new revenue stream on top and it's a unidirectional benefit for THORChain, and it's not us taking anything from THORChain. I think that's very key.
Yeah, one thing, I actually...
And also fully agree on the taxation at 50%. That is quite high, and that's I think in the long run, yeah, we should look to lower that, and especially as more competition come on board. So in agreement here.
And I think one thing too is, like I was saying, we all want to model out. We want to abstract in our mind like what's going to happen, what makes the most sense. But really, so much work has to get to that point. I think it'll become more clear as Rujira grows. Ataraxia, could you just mute? You got a hot mic there. Could you just mute that for me? I think it'll make more sense as it grows, because like I said, like THORChain 2021 was a baby. It was like a mess. It was hard. And Rujira, although a lot of the code base is proven in another ecosystem, we have a unique implementation here, and it's learning how to fly, and we need to do that. One thing I want to do though is the 50-50 model. It makes sense in my head right now. It just feels right. I don't know if I could articulate it logically well enough, but it makes sense right now. What I really want to do, I think this is a winning strategy, because it's a one-way street from Rujira to THORChain. I understand how that can make some consternation in the minds of Rujirans. Like, I really want to take some of that fee and I want to market the app layer. I think that would make it come full circle. I think that's a good relationship. Like, the app layer is getting more for their money than just access to the later one liquidity. Like, I really want to push the app layer and just see how it goes. I think the 10 app layer idea is an interesting concept, but right now I just want a proof of concept where we really push this thing and get people swapping out, because there's so much DeFi volume that we can siphon away. Go ahead, Kenton.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's I talk about competition with app layer, like I think it's ridiculous well, maybe it's not ridiculous, but I highly doubt we would have 10 competing Rujiras within a year type thing, right? Like, Rujira itself has got to have some kind of success. But that's kind of my point is that the more successful Rujira is, which I obviously sincerely hope and wish they are, the more others are going to take notice, and they're going to want a piece of that too, right? Like, well, I want some of that. I want to do that, right? And so for me, that's why I think app layer should be open to allow other teams to develop, because again, they're going to generate their own audience. Like, it's they're not going to steal all the users from Rujira on their new platform. They're going to go develop their own users, their own audience, go find their own people, and if we have those kinds of front ends on app layer, then THORChain is in more control of its own destiny, because THORChain is setting the price on its tax, right? When you're developing on app layer, you can only use THORChain liquidity, only THORChain base layer. We're not routing anywhere else. So, if you want THORChain to be this infrastructure that nobody knows about, we should have dozens and hundreds of front ends on app layer, and that's guaranteed revenue and volume on THORChain base layer, and then we don't have to worry about these other wallets sending the trade and volume elsewhere. If it's all happening on app layer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, like, there's so many amazing teams right now working on app layer. I mean, you have the Nami, you've got liquidity guys. I mean, and so many people are coming. Pragmatic Monkey, actually, I see your hand, Shapeshift. Just 1 second. Pragmatic Monkey, could you give us a sense? Like, you don't have to give me an exact number, but is there a lot of teams that are like really building for like frantically right now on the app layer? Like how bullish are you? What's going on a little bit?
Well, so there are like probably around 10, 12 teams like really actively buildings, like having smart contract being deployed and all those things. But then if you extend, like, I have in touch, I have a little file where I track things, and I mean, there is a lot of things that are like low, like no priority, or will not go anywhere. But I have like a list of over like 40 different projects I've been that are in the pipeline to potentially do something with us. So there are like a lot of things, especially on things that will come later, but on the value added fronts. Like, once, so we create the core primitives with Rujira, which charge fees, which is shared 50% with THORChain. But what we want then is to attract builders that build on top of those primitives and compose them together, add extra logic, like just create products on top of those that add value, add utility for users, and generate economic activity for both Rujira and the base layer. And once we still need a few building blocks, but that's really the type of builder I think we should really try to get in. And like we have quite a lot of talks, and we still need to put together a bunch of infrastructure, working with the Rujira guys, notably to have, for example, a framework to onboard third-party strategists that we allow people to come and create like vaults to trade either on a Ruji Trade or on perps, or use any of those different primitive we have, build strategy on top of it, add a management fee and a performance fee, and you can be either a market maker or a taker that does directional trading, and you can like put your strategy in a vault and allow anyone to come, deposit asset, and put the asset at work without having to handle the strategy yourself. I think that's that's something Hyperliquid does. Like you have all those vaults. I think that's something where we have a big opportunities there as well, and we can do stuff much more advanced than any other ecosystem, just because we have this full tech stack with all those different apps that all work together. So quite exciting. It's gonna be like it's a long grind to get to have all those building blocks ready, but once they will be there, and especially I have mentioned in the past, we also like want to develop this referral fee plus affiliate fee framework that we allow all those integrators to also monetize by taking a cut of the fee of the protocol, plus potentially adding an affiliate fee on top if they wish to do so. This is gonna also be a very powerful tool to attract this type of guys. And then once we have those tools, I think it's gonna be a sudden explosion. First a few that starts, show the water, and then I think we are going to attract a lot more strategists and all sorts of builders that can monetize those primitives.
That's incredible. I mean, okay, first off, hey, THORaxia, I told you once, hey, please mute your mic. I know there's a language barrier here, but thank you so much. That's incredible. You have 12 teams that are seriously coding and building right now in the app layer, and then you're in contact with 40 other teams, or 40 teams total, I should say. And how old is the Rujira app layer? Like what, weeks old? You guys, this is incredible. And if there's anyone listening to this recording or live, that you have a wallet interface, you're from a different ecosystem. I see Lady K. Hi, Lady K. This is Patriot. She's from the XRP community. She's a lovely, lovely gal. Give her a follow, guys. Man, I got to encourage people, please get in touch with Pragmatic Monkey. Please get in touch with Rujira. There's Erudite in the audience. Please get in touch with people. There is so much to be built here. It is an incredible thing. That's only a few weeks. We have that many teams working. Imagine we're going to be 2 years from now. I really want to market the app layer, you guys. I'm super excited. Shapeshift, I see your hand, and then we'll go back to a THORaxia. Go ahead, Shapeshift.
GM. I wanted to just have everybody start thinking that by a matter of fact, with freedom of choice in a free market economy, we have proven customers typically inherently to be lazy and willing to pay a convenience fee. And there's some sweet spot, I believe, in between that and the whole, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, the unit bias factor. Like say when you're building having a quotes to build a brick wall, do you really want the cheapest bid to come in and build a weight-bearing brick wall? Probably not. Just some food for thought. And that it should also be noteworthy, if anybody, by the time you say, can you hear me now? I've noticed in spaces, if you can't hear, you're the one that needs to recycle. So just wanted to throw that out there to chew on, and hopefully we're not Pedro the cheapest and garnering the respect of being the lowest, dollar store crypto DeFi swapper. We need to have a perceivable value. It's a 0 to 1 holy grail technology. Be shocked like it. That's all. Godspeed.
Yeah, thanks for your input. And then Kenton, I'll go to you in a little bit. Do you have anything you want to add to that? Or,
so thanks intern for the tip. Noted next time.
THORaxia, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. It will be possible use RUNE has collateral to take along when Rujira goes live with lending. Also, it will be possible to take along with the others 9 change.
I don't think we're gonna.
I hope not.
No, we're very against that. We do not want to use the base asset of THORChain to be leveraged in a lending module on the app layer, which is on top of THORChain itself. We learned our mistake from THORFi. We don't want a THORFi 2.0. So no, I would very much advocate strongly against that.
Okay, and also in futures conversation, can you open the comment section, because for me it's better.
No, that's so okay. So one thing about that, that's not within our control. X is stupid. So THORChain is the main one. They host that space. Sometimes the comments show up, sometimes they don't. I don't have an explanation for it. We've talked about it. I agree with you. We believe in maximum transparency and people commenting. And I'm sorry to people out there who want to make comments. I don't understand why X Spaces do that. And as you can see, Kenton had some audio problems. I completely failed to be a co-host. I was supposed to be Patriot Sounds up here. I completely failed, and thank God I had Rune Bond as a backup. I have no idea. I don't get it. So yeah, I'm hoping someone just develops Spaces 2.0. Elon, get your ass to work. This is terrible.
Okay, but for the other 9 chains using THORChain, it will be possible to take a loan like Doge,
Yes.
Bitcoin Cash.
That's my understanding, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. I confirm. Like all the layer 1 assets, no issue at all. It's we still have to work out exactly the details, but what we want to do effectively is borrowing caps that are effectively linked to on-chain liquidity. So what you want to make sure is that at all time you always have enough liquidity on chain to guarantee orderly liquidation if start price to go down. It's not an easy thing to do, but that's what we are aiming at. And to minimize the risk, you only want to do that for high liquidity assets. However, if we can have a robust framework for that, like even using RUNE with a low max borrow cap, would be totally safe. There is no issue with that, but it's more like of a social thing with the community of making sure people are comfortable with that and which level they are comfortable. But technically, it's totally doable to also have a market with RUNE or TCY or TCY. TCY has a lower liquidity, so it will be much more restrained. But RUNE has plenty of liquidity, so a bit of leverage with that would be totally safe. But yeah, up to social consensus.
I want to add to that, just maybe explain it a bit further if somebody's a bit unsure, unclear what we're talking about. In January, when THORFi effectively blew up and was defaulted on, the problem with the design was that, just to make it simple, is that RUNE was used as collateral. And if you know, in liquidation events, collateral is sold. And because RUNE is intrinsic to how THORChain works, like in the liquidity pools and with the nodes, with the price of RUNE going down, it amplifies the downward spiral because the pools get smaller, volume goes down, revenue goes down, nodes want to leave, we lose security. It has a very negative, strong negative consequences. So we want to avoid any sell-offs in the RUNE price, and a good way to help protect us from that is just avoid using RUNE as collateral. Then we can just avoid any liquidations on the RUNE token, which would drive down the price. So that's why there'd be very little appetite to do any kind of open to full board to allow any kind of borrowing on RUNE.
Yeah.
But either way, I think it will be possible when Maya Protocol merge with Rujira. The people will take a loan using the Maya Protocol, correct?
But that's different because it uses the security. It's based on a different protocol. So I think that fixes the game theory. Is that right, Kenton?
I'm not sure, but I'll just maybe add is that we obviously can't stop third parties from using RUNE as collateral and issuing loans. That can happen. I was talking about competition before, right? If people want to do that, it's free market, they can do it. And for me, I'd rather just let the third parties do it. THORChain can't control it, but I don't think THORChain as a protocol should create that or endorse it.
Yeah, and just sorry, like you mentioned the fusion of THORChain, of Rujira and Maya. I'm not sure what this is about. You mean, I guess, when Rujira will launch some apps on Maya, and yeah, as Kenton was saying, if it's permissionless, okay, anybody can do it. Doesn't matter where the market is. If RUNE is used as collateral and the price goes down and it's get into a LTV level that is unsafe, people will get liquidated, and that will create sell pressure on RUNE. So yeah, it's also something. If we were ever to make a market for that on on THORChain app layer directly. We should also be mindful of what exists on other chains, but that we cannot control.
Right.
It's all permissionless
Yeah,
at the end.
and for those who don't know, like THORFi on THORChain, that was an attempt to make something like an app layer, because we have this swapping mechanism, right? Layer 1 to layer 1. We don't want to stop there. We literally, like, our ethos has always been liberating the world economically, and you need to offer more than just swaps at the end of the day to do that. But you know, doing something like an app layer for us, that's very hard. I mean, we have really no experience in that. But with what's once called Kujira, again, there's people who are not familiar, becoming Rujira and then merging with THORChain, this changes everything. It's an app layer built on top of THORChain. The base asset RUNE becomes boring again, which is beautiful. No leverage, none of this nonsense. Whatever third parties do with it, that's their thing, and I think that's fine. As long as we don't have an intrinsic design on THORChain itself, where the vast majority of RUNE's going to be leveraged or used in a mechanism, I think it's just fine. It works just good. But that's what Rujira gives to us, is what we always wanted. Go ahead, Pragmatic.
And maybe also on the design itself, THORFi was particularly bad because what it did effectively was, whenever you open a loan, if you use Bitcoin as collateral, it will record the quantity of Bitcoin you deposit as collateral as your what you are owed, but then it will swap that for RUNE, and that means that if RUNE was going down relative to Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin was going up relative to RUNE, it was creating an uncapped liability for the protocol, and that was a terrible design. Like, because effectively, if RUNE was not at least tracking those assets, you are getting an ever and ever growing liability, and with no liquidation. So it cascaded, like it escalated to something completely unmanageable and leading to the blow up. Here on Rujira, we are using a much more safe model. There is no uncapped liability. Everything will work on the lending side as a CDP, so collateralized debt position. You will have your collateral, let's say if it's RUNE or BTC or whatever, you deposit that. It has a value of 100. You can borrow up to, say, $75 for $100 worth of collateral. If that gives you your LTV, the value of your loan compared to the value of your collateral, and if at any point in time you break what is considered a safe LTV based on the parameter of the protocol, then a portion of your collateral become at risk, and people can come, bid on it, buy it at a discount, sell it, and with the proceeds from the sales, it repay your loan, and it reduces the liability, and it put back your health ratio of your position, your LTV, at a compliant level. So it's a much safer system. It has been around like forever, like started with Compound and Aave back in the day on Ethereum. It's very battle tested and proven. It's the beauty of what THORFi was offering is that you have no liquidation. So of course, from a borrower perspective, it was beautiful, but this was at the cost of creating an infinite liability for the protocol. And of course, eventually it blew up. Here, that's not how it works. Borrowers can get liquidated, and that's how you actually keep the system safe as well. So in any case, it will never be the same kind of risk profile. It's much less riskier.
Yeah, right. And that was well said. THORFi was modeled around a broken first principle. It was made on an assumption on game theory and the market that smaller market caps gradually outperform larger market caps. Very bad idea. Obviously learned lessons on that. But that's why I'm so thankful Pragmatic Monkey and everyone is here, because you guys have a lot of knowledge in this arena, and it's been like the greatest power up. So thank you so much. Kenton, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I do, not about this topic. I had another tidbit on marketing. Okay. Yeah, just another anecdote about competition. So I used to live in North County, San Diego, Encinitas, the Leucadia neighborhood. And if you're ever in North County, Encinitas is pretty cool. Go check it out. And then you got to go to the Regal Seagull. That was my local pub. And they've got like San Diego is kind of a craft beer, one of the hubs in the US. And there's like 100 microbreweries or something there. But anyways, so Regal Seagull, they've got 24 beers on tap, and it's a rotating, they're rotating taps. So when the keg is kicked, when it's done, they put in a completely different beer. So every time you go there, you have to see on the board what beers they have, and it's really cool because you can do a brewery tour just within the pub, right? You don't have to go drive around. There's always, even being a regular, there's always new beers on there, and it was a great spot. It was like tons of like locals, like people in the neighborhood were regulars, and you could go by yourself, bump into somebody type thing, and then right beside it, St. Archer, a beer company, set up their own pub, like literally right beside the Regal Seagull. And the owners of the Seagull were kind of pissed. They're like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's competition, right? You're selling beer, we're selling beer, right? But what ended up happening is St. Archer was literally empty when the Seagull would be packed. Like these buildings are right beside each other, and you stand back on the sidewalk, you see one is packed, the other one's absolutely empty. And it's because no one likes St. Archer. It was I don't know, it's like I know some skaters started it. It was just like all marketing. Like it was kind of low quality beer, but it's just like, they just spent the money on just trying to market it instead of building a good product. And I think a lot of people just kind of saw it as like a phony beer, kind of fake. And so no one supported it. And the community supported the Regal Seagull. So much so that within like, I think St. Archer only lasted maybe about a year, maybe 2, but they had to shut down. So you have literally 2 beer pubs right beside each other. They're both selling beer, probably the same price. They both get you drunk, right? They both do the same things. But nobody went to St. Archer. Everybody was going to the Seagull because they had the relationship with the Seagull. That was their place. That was their home. That's where they like to be. They're comfortable. If Regal Seagull hadn't been there first, then fine, maybe St. Archer would be busy and people would go there, whatever, right? But it just gives you an idea how markets work. It isn't people stick to their brands and their products they're comfortable with and they like, and it's not as simple as, oh, I'm going to just put something up beside you and I'm going to steal your customers. It's not that simple. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot. Humans are complex creatures. You can, the comfort factor is something that goes a long way. People like doing the same things. A lot of people, do not like change, even if it's irrational. You know what I mean? They'll do the same thing again and again and again. And I think because everyone in the audience is a very complex, deep thinker, we actually overthink things. I remember one thing. Let me tell you one little anecdote about myself. I remember thinking that Uber Eats and DoorDash and these companies, I thought that was really dumb initially because I didn't think poor people would use it. Because I was just looking at the price and I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to spend like $12 for a fee to buy a $5 hamburger or like, $8. Like, you are doubling the cost. I'm like, who in their right mind would use such a thing? This is just so financially irresponsible and aloof. I mean, really? Fuck, was I wrong? I was wrong as hell. People love that stuff. I went to gas stations. I'm like, that guy can't, this is back before inflation. I'm like, that guy can't be making more than $10 an hour. And he'd bring in like the biggest meal from the restaurant that was really far away that everyone can eat like during their lunch and just paid the most exorbitant fee. And so like, yeah, guys, the fee structure and product does not necessarily have a direct one-to-one relationship with their user count. Yeah, maybe you'll lose some, like you would have lost me. But again, apparently we are all in the extreme minority. So that was a humbling moment for me. I was extremely wrong about that moment. That's what that reminds me of what Kenton said.
Well, it's also like a lot of Bitcoin maxis, they crap on all the meme coins and Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin, all these forks of Bitcoin, and I would argue that actually Bitcoin is the original meme coin. And I don't say that in a derogatory term, but maxis will complain that, oh, there's all these other tokens and it's taking away from Bitcoin, as if these other tokens didn't exist, take all those market caps, and that market cap would then be added to Bitcoin. And then I'm like, no, actually, I would argue it's the complete opposite. Having all these other tokens exist is probably what helps makes Bitcoin market cap larger, for a couple of reasons. One is how many people are new to crypto and they start with shit coins. I don't like that term, but you know what I mean. They're like genuinely bad tokens, and they get burned, disenfranchised, and then they become Bitcoiners, right? They didn't start with Bitcoin, but they ended up with it. And because a lot of people don't, they think Bitcoin's expensive, and they don't want to, whatever their reasons are. But coming into crypto a different way ends up leading them to Bitcoin. And then also too, just having these other tokens that succeed and do stuff, that's marketing for crypto in general and Bitcoin indirectly. And then the more, going back, kind of back to what I was saying about being confident in your product, despite having 40 million different cryptocurrencies out there, Bitcoin is still the king. Like it's on top of everyone else. And the more tokens that are out there and that fail just reinforces how strong Bitcoin is and gives their users, that audience, more confidence to hold and hodl and all good stuff. So I would argue that all the competition in crypto is good for Bitcoin and helps sets it apart and help keeps it high. So this is how, it's not intuitive, but this is how markets work. This is how free markets work. Why competition is good for society, and good for the people competing with each other. It helps raise the bar for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's not intuitive at all, and I failed that check a few times, just thinking too deeply about it when really you need to be much more superficial and think more about human behaviorism. We have a new speaker up, THORmax. You want to go and check your mic? Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, all. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up an analogy that I can't quite shake out of my head lately. And a lot of times I think about, is RUNE sort of the water company, right? Your local water utility. Provides all this liquidity, but it doesn't really make a lot of money. Like the price of water does not 10x. And, like the breweries make a lot of money off that water. And, Nestle bottles it and they make a lot of money off of it. But the local water company isn't posting record profits. Nobody's getting rich off that. And I kind of feel like maybe that's sort of what's going on with RUNE lately. I mean, forever now. It seems like, oh, when we get Ledger, then it'll take off. And when we get this or that, it'll take off. And then we're doing THORFi and it'll take off. And that didn't clearly work out.
Well,
so I'm just sort of like, does the value accumulate to RUNE, or does the value just flow through RUNE? Like even bonding right now, it's like 3.5%. Like it would literally be better in the corner bank. So, and that's my concern. It's like, are we just going to keep expanding the network and expanding the network, and more people are being served by all these liquidity pipes we're building, and yet the price of water never does shit? It's like, when does the money accumulate to the token? I don't see why the community almost seems antithetical to that happening. It's like, I don't know. It baffles me that the price is what it is, despite THORFi and everything else. We ended emissions, and yet the price hasn't budged. Like, surely that was going to do it. And now Rujira is basically here, and the price isn't budging. It's like, is the only way to make money with RUNE to take advantage of the RUNE ecosystem by building a front end or an app layer app or something like that. But the people who, run the nodes and provide the liquidity, it doesn't seem to be working out real great unless you were super early. So
Well, the thing
it's
a decent analogy, but the thing with the water company, they have a monopoly on their jurisdiction, right, on their municipality or locality or whatever. THORChain is even, imagine a water company competing with 10 other water companies. It's even worse.
Right. It's even worse.
Yeah. So, and you're absolutely right. It's who's taking that water and turning it into a product and upselling it. They're the ones making the margin, right? Because again, like that's how markets work, right? you create a product and you market it, you promote it, and people are paying for their branding, their promotion, right? If you're just selling the raw materials into that product, it's usually not huge margins, right? But where you make money is on volume, right? And so I agree with you that that's kind of my concern with THORChain just being infrastructure, is that what is this really worth, like this volume, right? This source of liquidity, and if we're being diluted across 10 other sources of liquidity, that's where we get in this race to the bottom of our fees, of our price. Whereas if we can be vertically integrated, which I understand, I know it was purposely avoided in the beginning, but if we become vertically integrated, we then can start capturing a piece of that end product, right? And at least start capturing some of our own revenue. And so I think your analogy is sound. I think it's good. It's right. And that's my argument for having a front end, is so we can start selling some of that end product. And I'm not that concerned about regulatory capture. Like, if my understanding, that was the only reason THORChain didn't set out that way to begin with. I think we can protect ourselves from that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of the front end as a one way, and yet it's still only to be one front end out of 10, 20, 50, hundreds, however many we end up with. I wonder, I keep going back to this, and every time I brought it up, people want to shoot it down left, right, and center. But it seems like, if a wallet wants to charge, 10% for an affiliate fee on a swap, then it seems like THORChain's fees should just be, okay, if you're charging 10%, then we're getting 1% of that 10%. And if you want to catch that full 10%, then bump it up to 12% if you can get it, and then we only take 0.12 or whatever. It's like, let's set some ratio of what's fair, because it seems like the front ends and a lot of other things are just making money hand over fist. Now, the 50-50 split with Ruji may be the thing that saves it. That would be great. That seems like a fair deal. But why is it 50-50 with, Ruji's an app, but Trust Wallet's also an app, and they're getting it for basically free.
Did you
Right?
just
Now, of
did you
course, it's
just join?
competition. But
Did you just join THORMax, or did you hear us talk about this half an hour ago?
oh no, I've heard that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
Just
don't.
sort of reiterating the point. It's like ultimately, if the project's going to succeed, the value is going to have to flow to the token. The token cannot continue to lose value against everything else, and or the whole damn thing's going to come crumbling down, right?
Yeah. Well, we need users. We need volume, right? And with all of the wallets, we have no control if they send the volume to us or not. So that's basically, what I'm trying to argue, is we need to find a way to be more in control of that. Ruji is good. It's gonna be great for that, because all the volume comes to THORChain, right? They can't it anywhere else. I thought of your idea about if a front end charges 10%, what if we take 1%? Well, that's basically a tariff, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard about the U.S. and tariffs, but right. So this is the argument is that, well, it just gets passed on. The cost gets passed on to the end user, right? You know that the U.S. isn't actually going to make any more money, and blah blah blah. And then Trump is saying, well, no, the producer is going to take the hit. Will that happen with the front end? If we throw in a tariff, will the front end take that hit, or will they pass it on to the user? If they pass it on to their user, then we're making THORChain trades more expensive, which gets us put in the bottom of the queue for the quotes. So I guess the only really way to know, I guess, would just be to try it, experiment. So I'm pretty sure that code is all done. It's all in there. It's just set to 0 right now. This came up, I want to say, about a year ago now. It was implemented, but I think the code was approved, but it was never actually turned on. because we were worried about it pissing off the front ends. Yeah.
It seems like if the users that are making these swaps are so price insensitive that they'll pay those big fees at Ledger or Trust Wallet, then like taking a a minor fraction of that, a tenth of that, maybe it's only needs to be a hundredth of that. I don't know what it is, but it seems like there's some rule where anybody would just look at it and say, look, that's perfectly fair. If we make X, then you make this little sliver of X. I don't know, and it might, also avoid people getting price gouged on THORChain and, anywhere that's going to start charging, 50% fees to unaware users or something like that.
There's an elephant in the room here, and this is why I keep talking, and it just doesn't happen. I'm like, and Kendon's brought this up, like marketing. Like this is why I want to market the app layer, right? Like market the app layer because that's all volume to THORChain. Additionally, guys, like me myself, I am reaching out as much as I can. I'm really fond of the XRP community. I think they're great, and I'm talking with them all the time. Like you guys can take personal agency on this and just spread the word. Like people don't know. Like that's one thing. We are all in our own bubble, our own ecosystem. I have to spend so much cognitive burden just to keep up with THORChain and Rujira and Mocha and everyone else. People just don't know it exists. So like I understand people may be upset about the price, but I don't like that is such an intellectual inefficiency. Go out there and just try and make it happen. Like just say go out to an ecosystem and tell people, like try to on-ramp people. Because the growth factor here is incredible. And the biggest winners in any market is when there's asymmetries, when you know something that the vast majority of the market doesn't know. But like that was me with Tesla. But the beautiful thing with Tesla is I didn't have any agency there. I wasn't an engineer. I couldn't like help them make execution besides other than just say, hey, I think Tesla's going to do well. Like everyone here has agency. You all can friggin' do something. You can go to a space. You can go talk to somebody. So like, for me, for me, it hurts when someone complains about the price. I'm like, well, then just do something about it. Like, do something, because to me, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm just, like my brain just like, it's like hitting a fucking brick wall again and again and again. It's like, there's always people complaining. And it's like, I'm literally spending my own free time and effort trying to show the world that we've built something here that's truly incredible. That XRPers now are no longer sequestered to a centralized exchange. That if the SEC had attacked them in 2021 and if they were on THORChain, they would have had no problem because they would have been free. Like what we built here is truly incredible. Be an emissary. Be that emissary. Go tell people. Like all of you are so super smart, so super passionate. We have done it, you guys. We have built something here that makes blockchain what's always supposed to be. Take ownership, put it in your heart, and go out there and join me. I need help. Like I'm doing the best I can, but all of us can do this. And I'm not trying to be coming at you hard, THORMax, but I hope that's going through your mind a little bit. Like, what can you do as an individual? What can anyone do as an individual? And Eric's been out there too. Like Eric's Mocha, he shills THORChain. Right? I mean, like we're doing it together, right? Because he knows that THORChain is health's important for his own project. Like, let's just all work together and make it happen.
I'm going to take a little bit of issue with the cheerleading and the kumbayaing on this. Like THORChain's always doing this. I've shilled for years on Twitter. I don't know what more I can do other than that. I'm not a coder.
Have you gone? No, excuse me. Have you gone on X Spaces? Shilling on Twitter doesn't do anything. A post, no one gives a shit.
No. And I'm going to take issue with that. Like I have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this project, and I have fucking jack shit to show for it. Right?
Yeah.
How much Bitcoin that I've lost investing in THORChain has been insane.
Excuse me.
And now I'm expected to also like be the marketer and yet like just holding RUNE should be enough. I also LP, I also bond provide, yada yada. Like I have put my life savings into this damn thing. Lots of coders, I'm sure, have made decent money and walked off with salaries and whatnot. I don't know what all that money went to support. I don't have it anymore as the price has crashed and THORFi ate it and savers withdrew and on and on and on. But it's like at some point the system just has to be set up in such a way that it's intuitively profitable for people to be involved.
I agree with that.
That's not the case.
Well, the guy, my guy though, like I'm in the same position as you. I'm the same position. There's no difference between you and I, you know, I have lost money and done things like that too. But like I'm telling you, I spend my own time going to conferences and talking to teams. That's how I met Mocha, going on spaces, and it's just like I understand. And you're a very passionate member, and I've seen you for years, and I think you're great. Okay, and I feel you. I understand where you're coming from. But it's just at there come the day, like just talking about that, saying that doesn't do anything. It doesn't. And we got to keep going. Like asymmetries in Tesla. Tesla shot to the moon because it took years and years of pain, struggle, blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point where people realized, like, hey, this isn't a car company. This is a technology company. They have software. Like there's automated driving. Like there's 0 to 1s in Tesla that set it apart. We have to tell people, especially with Rujira, man. I mean, just think about that. What Han said, what JP said, what Pragmatic Monkey said. I understand you're a little beat down like a dog, and I've been there myself, bro, but you just got to rekindle in your heart. And I don't want to be some hollow and empty and vacuous cheerleader. That's not my style. But we got this thing, man. We just got to keep going. We've done it, you guys. We just got to keep pushing. I firmly believe that. The first principles say that. It's not me emotionally just wanting to be true. It has logical end stages here, logical end stages where the math makes sense. We no longer have leverage in the system. We got rid of, we survived the THORFi thing. We don't have savers. We did it, man. And I know this has been such a fucking struggle. It has been, but I promise you, Joe, I'm doing everything I possibly can to make your commitment to this ecosystem worth it all those years. Just keep the faith, bro, and just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to get there.
Well, yeah, and part of that is, calling things out. Like I was calling for the end to inflation long before it was forced on us. And, I kind of was like, geez, if people would have paid a little more attention before, that'd be great. And we wouldn't have had to go through all that. We could have made that switch beforehand. And I feel like sort of the same thing's going on right now with, bonding percentages and LPs. Like, savers got walked off with a lot of money and borrowers got made whole with TYC, but LPers, we're still down bad, down very bad, and with no real hope on the horizon.
Oh,
So there are some fundamental things. It's like, let's be aware that value, it's okay for the value to accumulate to the coin. And I think nodes for a long time have been looking at it like, well, I keep collecting awards, so I'm getting more and more of the rune. Holders are getting less and less of the rune as this goes on. So that's kind of compensation for them. But still, it's like if you're making money in a token where the token price never goes up, it's like obviously nodes have more rune than anybody. Like, let's make sure that it's okay for value and should accumulate to the coin. I hear a lot about getting rid of the burn, and maybe there are better ways to use the burn. That's a whole separate account. But it's like at some point, there's so much dev focus on the new things that are coming up, and I don't hear a lot of talk about, how the money is going to accumulate to the token. So,
well, it
just
accumulates
want to put that
through
out into the mind space. Thanks.
yeah, through volume, right? Through revenue. So you got to zoom out a bit too. We're arguably still in the bear market and for altcoins, right? THORChain, RUNE is not immune to the broader market influences. And all, Bitcoin is doing well, but most altcoins are not. And somebody actually posted on Twitter, I forget which ones they were. If you go to JP's profile and you search his post for excuse me, all capital letters, JP replied to this guy, and this guy posted 4 charts, 4 different cryptos, and one of them was THORChain, and the charts look exactly the same, as if fundamentals are meaningless for all these for these projects because they're all just trading the same patterns. It's just money coming in or out of the sector. So we're down right now, like as a sector, right, which affects us, and that also affects trading volume, right? People are less active. They're not out trading. They're not out doing stuff, especially when prices are range bound, right? Somebody actually posted something interesting the other day about the volume on THORChain being low because basically in the last 100 days or something, last few months, like THORChain or Bitcoin has been within like a 1% or 5% range or something like that. Like when tokens go sideways, there's just less trading activity because less volatility, so less trading activity, so there's less fees. So you know, we're in a bear market sentiment, people aren't active, there's no volatility, traders aren't trading, there's no arbing, so volume is just down, right? Revenue's down, and that's the key to getting the RUNE price up is volume, right? We get volume up, that means fees are up, that means yields are up, and then people chase those yields, and that's why I do have to give kudos to the devs because rain or shine, they continue to produce. They continue to innovate, write more code, make more improvements. And this is like, it's like eating healthy and just exercising every day. Like, you go to the gym and you work out and you look in the mirror and you're like, this didn't do anything. And you do it the next day. You work out, go look in the mirror. I don't look any different. You do it day after day and you're like, I'm not making any progress. Well, when you look at it at such small scale, yeah, you're right. But if you start working out and look in the mirror 6 months later, holy smokes, like you do notice difference. You might not be jacked, but you are making progress. And maybe it takes you a year or two to get the physique you want. Maybe some people are lucky and it only takes them 6 months. But the point I'm trying to make is that as far as I'm concerned, the devs are doing everything they can to keep going to get that physique that we want. They keep adding features and keep finding ways to increase that volume. And so when the markets do turn around, we do get some volatility. We do get people active again. THORChain is much better, has much more to offer and to capture more users and more volume to get those fees up. And those fees are by pressure on RUNE, right? And then as the yield goes up, you understand how it works. The yield goes up, people want to bond more to capture the yield. This is actually one reason I'm kind of okay with leaving the node cap at 120 nodes, because we're kind of penalized for our success in getting more nodes because that means less yield for everybody, right? Because it's the same amount of fees split between more nodes. If we leave the cap at 120 for a while and volume and fees go up, the yield to BPs is going to go up. Maybe it's good to keep it at 20% APYs consistently for several months before we increase the node count. Start getting people to appreciate there's some returns here, and that yield going to BPs it's going to strong hands. They're not selling it, so that RUNE is coming off the market. So it sucks now in the short term, especially if you're looking at the last 6 months. But I'd also ask you to zoom out a bit. Look forward the next year or two, and I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now we have people coming on the space talking about how much money they've made on THORChain. So yeah.
It's like reminds me of that meme. You guys remember the meme where you have this little cartoon old man with his like little pickaxe, and he just keep picking and picking and picking, and he stops just before the diamonds. But I'm gonna give THORMax some credit to his argument, because for me I find it perplexing too. Like realizing what we've built here, because I'm buying RUNE all the time. I really am. I don't understand why people aren't just gobbling it up. I mean, it's just incredible what we're building here. But like I was saying, like getting out there. I don't know if Lady K was on the same space, but yesterday in Pragmatic Monkey and Rujirans, I talked to a few XRPers. I found a guy who has a bot that he does automatic trades with on the XRPL, and I reached out to him. I talked to him, and I said, "Hey, like we're building." Rujira's building where you can use native XRP on this, like here, let go. And then next thing you know, he's in the Rujira Telegram, and I'm hoping he DM'd Pragmatic Monkey. I think that's what happened. And dude, like this is how it's done, guys. Like we're getting there. We're getting there. We have a 0 to 1 product. It works. It solves the problem. It's unique. It's more secure. People are less, God, I don't want to repeat myself. All of you guys know the things. We are so close. I feel it deep down. I feel like I did with Tesla when I realized Tesla was not a car company. It's a technology company. It's a software company. Like we have something here. It's truly revolutionizing. We have Solana coming. We have Tron coming. We just have to do the work to spread the word and let people know that we exist and that a new era is here. This has been such a battle. It's been so hard. And I promise I'm just going to keep doing everything I can to make this come home for anyone listening to this. But just help me if you can. Anything you can do, because I believe we're going to get there.
And I think also too is I think THORChain's been pretty good about like trying different things. Like, you know, we've got app layer now, trying, you know, getting Rujira going. You know, this is why I've been so passionate about getting worked up about having our own front end, because, you know, I'm reevaluating, you know, the business plan of THORChain, and it's made me think, you know what, we need our own front end. You know, so it's like, you know, we're not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like we are, I think everyone is trying to innovate new different things, because like Patriot, like you said, like we're onto something. Like I think that's what's just kept me going. I'm sure the same thing keeps everyone else going, is that we know that this is a big deal, that having a real decentralized exchange like this is huge. And despite everything that's been thrown at it, it's still going. Like this is, there's something here. And you know, it's kind of like, you know, if you guys ever watch documentaries on like bands when they like make a song, like, you know, they don't just walk in the studio and have their hit song done. Like it's a process. You know, they go back and forth, they argue with each other, they get drunk, they're hungover, you know, whatever it is. And then after, you know, a couple of weeks of battling it out, they come out with this massive hit that we've all been listening to for the last 30 years. But it's, you know, it starts off with like, you know, kind of like putting a puzzle together. You know, it takes time before you can see the full picture. So I feel pretty, in my mind, that's what keeps me, what I feel good about THORChain, is see everyone putting these pieces together, this puzzle. We all see the same, we all know what the picture looks like, and we're all putting the pieces together, but we still, you know, we're still struggling to find how they fit, but we're making progress.
Yeah, and I empathize with THORMAX's like frustration, because I'm the same way. Like, I don't want to reveal too much about myself, but like my dad's not doing good right now, and part of me is like, man, we've done it, like we've done the hard work. I feel like, you know, we did our due diligence. We really did an honest attempt to experiment. You know, we tried savers, we tried THORFi, and for all the obvious, like we can look back now and it's so easy to parse, be like that was not a good design, but you know, we limited those things. Like we did our due diligence. We made all the correct decisions in limiting risky things, and we paid in blood for the knowledge that we have now. And now I feel like everyone kind of understands, as Kenton says, like we now know what we're doing. We now know what we're about. And for the first time, like core developers and Nine Realms are like literally on the same page. You know, the core devs got some things right. Nine Realms got some things right. Both parties got things wrong at times when it comes to private conversation. And it was that mutual work, right? So for me, I really want, like, for me, yeah, I'm restless too. I want THORChain and Rujira and everything to go well. I want Mocha to do well, because we've truly done something. Like we started back in 2020, 2021, realizing there's a serious problem in blockchain space. We have islands of liquidity and they can't touch each other without surrendering custody, right? And that's morphed into what we've built today. And it's here, guys. We've done it. So yeah, I feel you, THORMAX. I feel you. But I'm feeling good at the same time. So yeah.
We've been ranting on you, THORMAX. You have more to add or say?
Yeah, and I, you know, the more I think about it, the more I'm empathizing with you. But it, like, it's emotional for me on some level too, because I'm really trying really hard. So yeah.
I mean, I've done so much shilling on Twitter and whatnot over the years, and now I feel like there's room in THORChain. It's a strong enough project that it can take some internal heat, right, and some reality checks on occasion. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just feel the need to bring that up on occasion. Like, why isn't it? Just baffles me that even with the inflation cut to zero and then a burn added, the price just is not. And it seems to me like if this project is going to be successful, it needs to be able to keep up its BTC ratio. It needs to be able to keep up the ratios with everything else in the pools. Otherwise, there'll just be constant and permanent loss. It's like that seems like a major that would, I don't know, maybe I don't understand the very fine intricacies of the design quite enough, but I feel like I've got a pretty good mental model of how this all works. And it seems like that is critical.
Yeah, you have a great mental model, and I hope you didn't understand my pushback as censorship on you. I never want to
Oh,
censor
no, not at all.
anybody. Okay, cool. I was insecure
No,
about
no,
that.
no. And I'm certainly not here to crap on the project. Obviously, I believe in it, or I would have sold out long ago. But I am frustrated with the price action. Sure, the greater market is down and all of that, but you would think THORChain seems like it's the one thing that really makes money, like literally makes money. It should be able to buck the trend, and so far has not. And so I don't know, maybe that's just a little commiserating with my fellow wounded soldiers out there, but also, like, let's make sure we're focused on the money accumulating to the RUNE price, not just getting passed through to all of the other, businesses and front ends and things that have developed around it.
Well, part of the issue in my mind is nobody knows about THORChain, right? To invest in it. So like we've lost holders, investors over the years, especially in, we lost some longer term THORChads in January, February. But there's no one coming to buy from them, right? There's no one replacing them. And this is another thing that I'd like to try and solve in marketing. Like, we can't get people investing in RUNE and buying it if they don't know about it. Like, we got to play the game. So, how many times have you seen on Twitter somebody posting a chart with like 10 other protocols and all their metrics, but THORChain is missing, and THORChain arguably at the top of that list. Unfortunately, we have to pay for that stuff, to get included. We got to do, press releases. We got to get, THORChain has to be in people's minds if they want to buy the token, right? And if nobody knows about it, no one's going to buy it. So I think that needs to be fixed too. So yeah, it's so I agree with a lot of stuff you're saying, THORmax. Yeah.
And if anyone else wants to speak, I hands are bugged. Like I have hands that are popping up. So please just interject at any time if someone wants to say something, because X is really fucking bugged today. So.
Yeah, amen. I tell you, collecting your thoughts and holding on to them are two different things. I'm going to steal the mic for a second, respectfully, everybody. THORmax, ditto. We're here because of our conviction and comprehension. From my perspective, we are in crypto utilizing the ability to be unaccredited investors for the bulk of it, investing in software that doesn't work yet. THORChain functions and makes money. I love the analogy that instead of picking a horse in the horse race, THORChain represents I draw it to akin to investing, being part owner in an international bank of settlements. And instead of worrying about which horse is going to win the race, we earn money through volume, regardless of which horses come in first, second, or third. And I'm reminded, it begs repeating that bull markets climb and hurdle with a single bound the tallest walls of worry, and the best marketing is number go up. And it also bears repeating that we have the luxury, and we're lucky, or just me, I'll speak for myself, that we are involved in a protocol that is effectively mutually assured self-preservation, that it pays nobody to destroy, even if they could. Now, to land this, my call to action is to consider Sense Chaos Net. I'm here because of the agnosticism. We shouldn't be picking favorites. We should get out there ahead of time and pick the top 10 or 20 people with fill in the blank, with Ledger, with Trust Wallet, with Dogecoin, anybody, everybody, and invite them. When they're included, they're more respected. They're more like, hey, I've been invited somewhere. If I can't make it, maybe I'll listen into it and learn something. And I just think that's the most obvious path forward. Thanks for listening to the rantings of a madman.
Hey, thanks for
Godspeed.
Yeah, appreciate it. I had a really, hey, Kenton, dude, we have, this is going to burn your ego. This hurt. This is funny, though. That's someone in the Rujira Telegram that's like, hey, could you guys end the space so I can hear the recording and listen to Hans and JP? I think that's so funny.
We're going for another hour, baby.
Yeah, now we're going all day, bitch. We're going all day. I'm going to tell you about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to tell you when I'm eating dinner tonight. Yeah, no, I understand.
I wanted to add something more though, THORmax. I'm curious, were you having these thoughts and feelings in December when RUNE was $7?
Yeah, no, $7 was okay-ish. I was better at $7, but still, yes, I was still having concerns that, like, you know, is it that the what I really want to see is that speculative multiplier go down and down and down, even though the price is going up and up and up, right?
Yeah, because and I didn't mean to like call you out like that, but like, so I've been managing money for people for going on 15 years now, and I notice this. Everybody does this. I do it myself. Is that when your investment is down, you find all these problems. Oh, this is that, and that's a problem, this and that. When it simply is just the market's down. You know, it's just the tide is out right now, and the tide will come back in. And so you know, it's RUNE at $1.30. It's like, okay, it's easy to nitpick, and all these things are wrong. It shouldn't be like this. But I would argue, even without THORFi collapsing, without any problems, if everything was going well, I bet you the price would still be in this range, $1 or $2 type thing. The whole market's down. You know, it affects all of us. So, and conversely, when things turn around, the market goes back up. You know, people might try to celebrate the fundamentals on THORChain, but it could just very well simply be money just flowing back into the sector and have nothing to do with our fundamentals. So, you know, there's that to think about too.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to make sure we're not just a commodity that's constantly being harvested.
You're
You know what I mean?
bang on. You're absolutely right. That's why I've been getting so worked up about having our front end, because that is where I see it going. You know, if we're just in this constant race to the bottom on fees and how do we compete with quotes and these other front ends, it's like we're just commoditized. Like the front ends, they don't care. Look at well, I don't want to call anyone out, but you guys have seen, you know, these front ends of routing trades through centralized exchanges, and those trades are getting frozen. And we're not talking about a few grand. We're talking about like some people have had $1 million trades get frozen in these centralized front ends, or centralized back ends, I guess. And it's like, what are these wallets doing? And because for me, that was my whole belief with THORChain, is that wallets will only integrate DEXs, not sexes as well. And but here we are. So you know, it's made me kind of reevaluate stuff and rethink about things. And but yeah, if we're in this race to the bottom on fees, then we're commoditized. That's why commodities are a crappy investment. And you know, we need to have some pricing power. And you know, in my opinion, having our front end gives us some pricing power.
And to add a little context here, completely, because I've come to learn an XRP people, you know, and understand like XRP did well, but they've been treading pretty steady in this market. But then like the biggest news drop, something that they've been working towards forever, is that like Ripple applied for the baking license, right? Like this has been like one of their central things that they've been aiming for. Huge, unbelievably bullish news for their perspective, right? And the price hasn't really done much at all, which, you know, and I think that goes to your point, Kenton, like, yeah, it sucks. Like things are not going right now, and it's easy just to pick and look at problems. But I think this is a general wider sentiment. And that was a good point you made about commodities, THORmax.
Hey guys, I forgot. We're on the cusp of what was self-labeled as Crypto Week in DC, and we should probably act accordingly. There's going to be some eyeballs there within. Odds are.
Yeah, well, all I can do is try and get the word out. You know what I mean? So if anyone wants to do this with me, just do it yourself or hit me up in DMs. Let's I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like it's because I am an educator with THORChain and I've been in this community. And when you tell someone about a project, like, yeah, you're like from their mind, they're like, okay, obviously this guy is shilling something to me. He wants to be successful, right? But in my mind, it's like, well, hot damn, like, okay, like, yeah, I'm saying we have a good product, but would you please do me the common courtesy of tell me where I'm wrong? Like, where's the mistake? You know, like, tell me where I'm wrong. Like, show me the logical areas where this is just not the biggest 0 to
Gotcha.
1. And that wasn't directly a response to Shapeshift. It's just me ranting a little bit.
No, sir, no. We ought to feel free to speak or just shut the hell up. That's how I was raised. So if I open my mouth and I'm mistaken, fucking correct me.
Yeah, I agree.
But the bottom line is, it's time to get going. We got to have a specific task and purpose and function, and perhaps it's not talking about THORChain. Perhaps it's agnostically talking about each specific value proposition we're bringing to Trust Wallet. We're bringing to Ledger. We're bringing to Phantom. We're bringing to Sol, and divide and conquer. It's a tried and true method. Divide and conquer. If any of us were capable of explaining and having people comprehend THORChain, damn it, it would have happened long ago. And if THORChain was made to break, it would have long been to zero and crumbled into pieces long ago, like long ago. So let's have a mind trust collective and start exuding the value propositions we offer to each specific integrated partner intentionally, and move forward thusly. I may be wrong. Thanks for letting me steal the mic again, guys.
And this is something that I learned. I feel really naive. I feel so stupid thinking this. I was thinking I would go to various ecosystems and promote THORChain to them. But what I mean various as in, you know, plural. Like, no, like I've come to know the XRP community and I'm going to just stay with them. And I'm going to just, there's so many people, there's so many projects, there's so many different personalities there. It requires so much effort to just learn and appreciate what they're doing and understanding the nuances of their ecosystem and where we can slot in, that I'm just going to be an emissary probably with XRP. And I've actually bought an XRP now for a while. So if anyone there who is familiar with Solana or whatever Tron, if you want to be an emissary, just be that person and just slot in there. Because I've got like relationships now with these people and I like them a lot. Like I actually look forward to talking to them. I'm not coming at from a business perspective. I actually like enjoy their presence and hearing their ideas. And so I think that's what we need to do, guys. We just need to be emissaries. Because they had no idea. They had no idea it happened.
Hey, I just noticed CK Cardano was in the audience, and I challenge him to get his ass up and speak a few words, please.
I don't want to.
Yes,
I don't want to put people on the spot.
yeah.
Shapeshift. People might just want to dip in and listen. No pressure.
I know and respect him enough that he's without fear.
Okay, all right.
He might be driving. Who knows, right? I don't give it, but yeah, I understand.
What do you think, Patriot? Should we, if CK Cardano doesn't come up, should we start wrapping this up?
Yeah, you know, I think we might want to give the Rujiran what he wants. If he does not come up, you know what I mean? We'll end the space. So you can listen to Hans and JP and whatever you want to do, because we're not good enough for you. We could do it, I guess. Whatever.
Sorry, Rujiran. We got CK Cardano did come up to speak.
Oh, so sad for you. Go ahead, CK.
Go ahead, good Cardano. Go ahead, man.
Good morning, guys. What's up, room? I hope y'all had a happy 4th. I hope everyone attending right now has all the fingers and toes that they had a couple days ago. Never ceases to surprise me with all that. But yeah, man. So I'm just kind of, listening in. Maybe if Shapeshift could give me a broader context, but I guess just as a general comment, I see THORChain is hosting this. For folks that don't know, although everyone on this call probably does know, THORChain is creating essential infrastructure for freedom technology and tools for things like Maya Protocol, THORSwap, LeoDex, Shapeshift. these things that are going to give our global community the functionality of the Coinbases and the Binance that, quite frankly, could be, doing the paper Bitcoin stuff, right? If they have a 48-hour settlement time and all this business, the fact of the matter is, the more of these supplies that move into our custody, and when we can peer-to-peer the situation, the markets get more honest, spot prices rise commensurate with demand. Because the way that the centralized exchanges are gaming the price a bit is, if you have enough float to carry like all the retail inflows, you just have to update dashboards, right? If you have $1 billion in cash and you're running a small coffee shop and you're never going to see $1 million worth of flow, then fuck it, right? You don't have to be honest because you have $1 billion in the back. That's what Coinbase is doing. Coinbase is shaking retail by decoupling the spot price from supply and demand, right? They're not moving UTXOs if $1 million comes in if they know they've got $1 billion on the books, right? And when they're custodying for all these folks, I mean, it is what it is, but that's a little bit farther afield. Shapeshift, bro, thanks for giving me the shout out. Is there a particular sort of piece of the discussion that you were maybe wanting to vibe on or maybe discuss as this chat kind of wraps up?
I think inherently your most powerful weapon is to invoke a sense of community and agnostic interoperability. It's my wish.
I feel you, bro. Oh yeah, 100%. To me, that really is the secret sauce. I think we lose sight of the plot if we devolve into sort of the toxic maximalist, thought, whatever that is, right? If it's a Max Kaiser Bitcoin flavor or it's an XRP or whatever, I think anyone that has that maximalist, tunnel vision is going to do themselves a disservice. Because we see, when you look at the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right? That's a 7.8 trillion with a T dollar lending and borrowing just in housing, right? That's basically 3x Bitcoin's current market cap. And we've got this crypto week coming in Capitol Hill. So what I'm trying to say, guys, if that one little piece of the real estate portfolio is 3x Bitcoin's total market cap, the game is afoot, right? And there's a cup runneth over. You could look at cup runneth over and a rising tide lifts all ships. It's basically the same thing. Imagine if you're a bar that only has 100 goblets in it, and then the sky starts, raining wine. Eventually, those 100 goblets you have aren't going to be able to catch all the rain. That's the cash going into the 21 million units of Bitcoin, right? And then the runneth over is going to happen because people are going to go, hey, I have to put $1 billion for every 2x, to double my money in Bitcoin. Whereas instead of $1 billion, I can put $1 million in Litecoin for a 2x, because instead of $1 billion market cap, it's $1 million. Obviously pulling the numbers, the point is the magnitude, right? And where the multiples are. So as Bitcoin is creating this new world, that openness to interoperability and free markets is going to take the fore. So I think when we see toxicity, we see some of the darker pieces of the division in religion, right? Where religion really can be about unity and love and building and really positive, beautiful things. But as Shapeshift was saying, these same things, it's a shadow and light, right? They can be used to divide us. And so I think if we say, okay, we all see the capacity and the necessity for freedom, tools, and technology. We all appreciate Bitcoin. We would be fools if we thought Bitcoin wasn't going to be a major player, right? But we would also be fools if we didn't recognize Bitcoin operates at 7 transactions per second. Bitcoin is already having fundamental disagreements with core development, right? So do you really think in the age of AI, where 6 months from now, AI is going to be capable of things that it isn't today? Meanwhile, traditional finance is 3 to 5 business days. Meanwhile, blockchain is the solution. But we know the folks that are developing Bitcoin, literally, they just are not fast and nimble enough. So if we really are honest and we come to this conversation with open eyes, we see, wow, you know what? Bitcoin really can just be Bitcoin. We can truly satisfy all parties here. Let's not break Bitcoin. Let's not introduce potential vulnerabilities or ways of congesting the network, right? And let that be. And then we get the additional privacy scalability while maintaining our self-custody of Bitcoin with these other assets. And I think THORChain, giving the global community in a decentralized, no leader sort of approach, the ability to have that free market commerce develop, which will be a check and a balance on these centralized entities and actors. I think it's exceptionally compelling. It's something that has never been before, because now we have an asset that no government or country controls, and there are now ways globally to distribute that asset. Meanwhile, the largest, most powerful nations in the world are realizing this has value. So what we have now is technology that allows us individually all around the world, no matter our context, the ability to interact with an asset, what is becoming the premier unit of account. So if you are that brilliant young musician in India that maybe, your father never met, never saw more than $1,000 in their life, but suddenly you've got a banger of a track that would make Kanye West blush. With Bitcoin, you can record that track on your cell phone, release it, and monetize it in global assets. You know what I mean? That have value everywhere, that have value in America and China and every market. These things are new to the world. So, yeah, bro, awesome conversation. Interoperability is the way. Free markets win.
Can I put a quick cherry on top of that whipped cream? I think it's not been responded to. I've asked a number of math PhDs and respectable brains alike. Every week, MicroStrategies, all these ETFs, all these X's,
Bro, I might
sequestering
Here, I'm going to
Bitcoin,
take a lap. I'll be right back.
are sequestering Bitcoin, and it doesn't matter until the supply and demand factor wears in, and then here we go. We're decentralized liquidity pool, permissionless, 24/7, 365. It's going to matter. We're here. We're doing something noble. Our devs should be commended constantly and fortified. And I think we got this, guys. We should act like it. GM, Godspeed.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead, Kenton.
No, I think that's great. I think we should wrap it up on that. What do you think, Patriot?
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. Let's give Captain Sparrow what he wants, and let's wrap this thing up, man. Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Until next week.
Yep. Follow the RUNE bond account, guys. Bond your RUNE. You know all the things. Keep an eye out for Maya Protocol, the first privacy, decentralized access to privacy. Remember, they're going to need us. Or be there for them when the matrix comes. Okay? Okay.